Chapter 1. Welcome to Zidu TV. Recently Capsule Company launched the latest capsule products, including houses, weapons, airplanes, cars, etc. We can solemnly announce that everything in heaven and earth can be included in small capsules. Welcome everyone to the mall to purchase. Here, the Capsule Company solemnly launched the old for the new activity. The beautiful lady on the TV is still trying to advertise the Capsule Company in Zidu, but Ping Fan no longer has the heart to care about what is said on the TV at this time. Ordinary never thought that he crossed into the world of Dragon Ball. Is this the world where ordinary people stay? That's really the world where the strong are walking. The gods are not as good as dogs. The most important thing is that Ordinary now does not remember the plot of Dragon Ball too much. He also watched Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z when he was a child. As for the later Dragon Ball Chao, Ordinary has only heard of some content, and the plot has not been seen at all. Ordinary thinks about his future, what he can do to survive the crisis of Vic the Great Devil, Frisia, Shrew, and so on. Should you tell us about what you did in your previous life and how you traveled to the world of Dragon Ball? Need an introduction? No introduction is needed, because no reader will care how I crossed into the world of Dragon Ball. These days, Ordinary can already be determined. They do not have any crosser benefits, systems, gold fingers, and everything. Break through the Ordinary and slap your brain. You are stupid. Isn't the biggest gold finger in the Dragon Ball world Dragon Ball? There is Dragon Ball. What other gold finger do you need? There are still conditions for the use of other people's gold fingers, but what about Dragon Ball? As long as you collect 7 Dragon Balls and make a wish directly, basically any wish can be fulfilled, and no conditions are required. And the second gold finger in the Dragon Ball world is the Scion. If Sun Wukong is the author's own son, then the Scion is the brother of the author's own son, and it is also Heifer who took the plain bull bee to the sky. Therefore, if you want to survive in the Dragon Ball world, you must replace your body with a Scion body, because only in this way can you have the capital to fight against those cosmic powerhouses. Just do it. The first thing is to find the Dragon Ball, and if you want to find the Dragon Ball, you must have the Dragon Ball radar. Dragon Ball radar can only be made by Bulma, so getting to know Bulma and turning Bulma on the road to find Dragon Ball is the first thing to do in ordinary things. Bulma is famous in the West because her father is Brives, chairman of the Capsule Group, the richest man in the world. As the chairman of the Capsule Group, Bulma can get Bulma's information in a little time. Bulma is now 16 years old and is in her first year of high school at Zidu High School, and she vaguely remembers that Bulma was 16 years old when she first appeared, but she went to collect Dragon Balls during the summer vacation. Now that high school has started for 3 months, and there is still more than a month left before the summer vacation, Ordinary needs to tell the story of Dragon Ball with Bulma before he discovers the secrets of Dragon Ball himself. In the evening, Zidu High School was dismissed, and Ordinary came to Bulma's way home from school. Soon Bulma drove the maglev motorcycle from a distance to the Ordinary side, and when the Ordinary aimed at the moment, a coin was shot out by the Ordinary and directly hit the maglev device of the Bulma maglev motorcycle. Suddenly, Bulma's motorcycle lost power, stopped sharply, and directly threw Bulma off the car. Ugh! Bulma never thought that she was so unlucky that she actually fell off the car. Seeing that she was about to fall face to the ground, Bulma couldn't help but close her eyes in shock. Suddenly, Bulma felt as if she was surrounded by a warm embrace, and she did not feel any pain. At this time, a warm and magnetic male voice came from her ears, "Are you all right?" The tone was full of concern. Only then did Bulma open her eyes, and then she saw a face that made her a little disappointed. She didn't expect that a person who spoke so nicely would have such an ordinary face. In fact, the face that Ordinary crossed over and possessed is not ugly, but a little fat, so it looks a little ordinary. "I'm okay, thank you, you saved me." Although this face disappointed Bulma a little, she still politely thanked Pingfan. After that, Bulma walked over to her motorcycle, wanting to check what was wrong with the motorcycle, how it had just lost power for no reason. Ordinary doesn't care, he knows that with this face, it is too difficult to quickly get Bulma's favor, and now the other party does not hate himself, and thanks to him, it is already very good. Pingfan walked up to Bulma's side and asked, "How is the motorcycle, can it still be driven?" By this time, Bulma had found a coin through the gap in the pedal of the motorcycle, which had cut off the magnetic field generator. Bulma said, "No, the magnetic field generator of the car was damaged by this coin, and it needs to be taken home and repaired again." After that, Bulma pressed the button on the motorcycle. Bang! With a bang, the damaged motorcycle turned into a tiny capsule and fell into Bulma's hands, where she put it in her school bag. Ordinary took the initiative to ask, "Do you have any other means of transportation?" Bulma shook her head and said, "I didn't expect the motorcycle to break, so I didn't bring other transportation, and now it seems that I can only walk back, but fortunately this place is not too far from home now." Ping! Fan said, "Then I'll send you. Recently a group of robbers in Zidu is not very safe." The robber thing is true, there is a group of robbers who robbed the bank in the western capital, so Ordinary is not afraid that Bulma thinks he has ulterior motives. Bulma nodded, agreed to the mundane request, and the two walked together towards Bulma's home, which is also the headquarters of the capsule group. Bulma is a cheerful girl who knows everyone, although Ordinary is not her favorite type, but this does not mean that she will hate Ordinary, so she asked, "What's your name, Bulma?" Ordinary replied, "My name is Ordinary." Ordinary, your name really matches your appearance, it is indeed quite ordinary. Bulma unceremoniously inserted a knife in the Ordinary heart. Ping Fan immediately pretended to cover his heart, and said with an exaggerated expression, "Your words really hurt my heart, no matter what, I am also your lifesaver." Chapter 2. Although he knew that Ordinary was pretending, Bulma did realize that what he had just said was indeed a little inappropriate, so he apologized with a smile on his face, "I'm sorry, I didn't expect you to be ordinary, and your heart is still so sensitive." Poof! Ordinary really almost vomited blood this time, and Bulma's mouth is really unforgiving. Seeing that Pingfan seemed to be really angry this time, Bulma felt and said, okay, just now I really just made a joke with you, I didn't mean it, I apologize, very sincere." "Okay, I accept." What can Ordinary do? Can he still not accept Bulma's apology, let alone that he has other purposes? As soon as the two jokes began, the distance between Ordinary and Bulma was instantly narrowed, and soon the two chatted like friends. Under the guidance of Ordinary intentions, the two talked about the topic of future dreams. Bulma said with a look of delignity, "My dream in the future is to marry the most handsome man in the world, just like Yuta Matsumura." Yuta Matsumura is a very handsome male star in this Dragon Ball world, attracting the worship of countless girls and girls in this world. Probably imagining the scene of marrying Matsumura Yuta, Bulma's eyes turned pink heart-shaped, and her hands held her cheeks, and her face turned pink. Looking at Bulma speechlessly, he never thought that he could be fooled to this extent. Ordinary patted Bulma's shoulder to get her out of the scene of lust, but it was useless, until she herself probably finished the whole process of lust, and then she came back to her senses. For Bulma, this is already her norm, she does not care about Ordinary Fan's current expression, and asks Ordinary, "What about you, what dreams do you have?" Ping! Fan thought for a while and said, "Maybe I want to become a powerful martial artist. Martial deist." Although Bulma doesn't quite understand why some people regard this as their dream, everyone's dream is worth encouraging. So Bulma said to Ordinary very seriously, "Ordinary Fan, I believe in you, you will definitely become a great martial artist in the future." But he didn't expect that his encouragement did not exchange for Ordinary happiness, but Ordinary sighed, and his tone was full of unwillingness. Bulma couldn't help but ask, "Ordinary, what's wrong with you?" Ping! Fan said, "Bulma, do you know, practicing martial arts depends on talent, Some people are born martial arts geniuses, a little practice, you can be very powerful. But it's true that no matter how you exercise, the progress is very small, and you can only become a fitness instructor in the gym. And I'm such a person, with average talent. Don't look at me as if I am very powerful, in fact, my body has accumulated serious dark injuries due to exercise, and now I am the limit of my body. The unspeakable sadness of his ordinary tone, coupled with the positive appeal of his voice, Bulma couldn't help but shed tears for what happened to him. Bulma said to Ordinary with teary eyes, "Ordinary, don't worry, after I go back, I will build a healing instrument for you, you can rest assured, I will definitely help you heal your body." Ordinary looks at it now, "You can talk about the Dragon Ball thing," he then said, "even if I treat my dark injury, my upper limit of my body is already so much, even if it is treated, it is just to make an injury to myself in the future. Alas! If only I could collect Chi Dragon Balls, so that I could have a very talented body." Ping Fan said while waving his arms to increase his infectiousness. Bulma was really attracted by the Dragon Ball in ordinary words, and couldn't help asking, "Dragon Ball, what is this thing, can it make your body extremely talented?" "Dragon Ball, this is a very magical bead, just like glass, there are 7 in total, and each Dragon Ball has stars inside, 1 star to 7 stars. As long as we collect 7 Dragon Balls, we can summon the Divine Dragon, and then we can make a wish to the Divine Dragon, and the Divine Dragon can grant any of our wishes. Our current king can only become the king of the entire world after collecting all the Dragon Balls and making a wish to the dragon." Ordinary and emotional to tell the story of Dragon Ball for Bulma, Bulma listens to the stars in her eyes, imagining the scene of collecting Chi Dragon Balls and then letting Shenlong give herself a handsome man. But suddenly she thought of the Ordinary. Ordinary also has wishes, but Shenlong can only fulfill 1 wish, so who is this wish for? Of course, Ordinary did not know what Bulma thought, and he continued to tell, saying, "After the Dragon Ball is completed, it will scatter to all corners of the world, turn into stone, and after a year, it will turn into Dragon Ball again, and then it can be collected again and make a wish." Hearing this, Bulma finally made up her mind to help ordinary people fulfill their wishes, and their wishes could be made to Shenlong after a year. After making up her mind, Bulma raised her little face and said solemnly to Pingfan, "Ordinary, I have made up my mind, this summer vacation, let's go collect Dragon Balls together." Looking at the solemn Bulma, Ping Fan suddenly felt that he was fooling a little girl like this. Was it too unauthentic? Had no choice, Ordinary quickly silently recited Amitabha Buddha in his heart. Then said to Bulma with a straight face, "Okay, let's go collect Dragon Balls together during the summer vacation." After the two finished their discussion, they walked back to Bulma's house. As she walked, Bulma asked, "By the way, Ordinary, do you know where the Dragon Ball is?" Ping Fan shook his head and said, "I don't know, you know what?" Bulma also shook her head and said, "I don't know." The two were silent. After a few minutes of silence, Bulma couldn't help but sigh and said, "Alas, if only we could have a Dragon Ball, so that I could create a Dragon Ball radar based on this Dragon Ball, so that we could quickly find a good Dragon Ball. But now that there is nothing, how can we find the Dragon Balls?" Looking at the little girl's distraught look, Ping Fan comforted, "It's okay, I am fortunate to lose my life, depending on God's will, but I believe that God will not abandon his people." Ordinary also forgot how Bulma made the Dragon Ball radar. In the previous life, it seems that as soon as Bulma appeared, there was already a Dragon Ball radar and Dragon Ball. Although Bulma has not yet been able to create a Dragon Ball radar, Ordinary believes that as long as he does not greatly change the plot, Bulma will definitely be able to create Dragon Ball radar like in the plot. Chapter 3. Indeed, as Bulma said, her home was not far from the site of the previous motorcycle crash, and the two walked for about half an hour, and Ordinary finally delivered Bulma to her home. Looking at the huge domed building in front of you, the real world will always look more shocking than what you see on TV. Looking at her home with an ordinary look of amazement, Bulma's heart was greatly satisfied. As a token of gratitude, Bulma invited Pingfan to her home, and it happened that it was already evening, and Bulma was ready to invite Pingfan to her home for a sumptuous dinner. Ordinary was a little hesitant at this time, and it was a little inappropriate to go to someone's house for dinner when they met for the first time. Bulma, there is no need to have dinner, besides, I don't know your family, it will be very embarrassing to have dinner together. Ordinary said. Bulma listened to the ordinary words, and suddenly remembered her strange mother, and suddenly felt that the ordinary was right. If you let your mother see the ordinary, maybe there will be some moths. So he quickly changed his tone and said, you are right, so let's do it. When I have the weekend off, I will take you out for a big meal, and it is too informal to eat at home. Ordinary also thought that Bulma misunderstood that she was not satisfied with eating home-cooked food, and quickly shook her head and said, no, 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 Bulma, I don't mean to dislike your ordinary food, I didn't have any preparation today, it's too rude to come to the door like this. Listening to ordinary words, Bulma immediately understood that Ordinary had misunderstood her, just when she was about to explain to Ordinary. A car stopped next to Ordinary and Bulma's mother got out of the car, and there was a housekeeper behind her with a lot of shopping mall bags, apparently just returning from a shopping mall. Seeing Bulma and a boy standing at the door of her house, Bulma's mother immediately walked over with bright eyes. When Bulma saw her mother get out of the car, she immediately put her hand on her face and said silently in her heart, it's over. Although Bulma's mother has not yet reached the Ordinary, the laughter has already come, and said with a smile, ah, you are Bulma's boyfriend, great, her father and I have always been worried about whether this grumpy girl can find a husband in the future. Now when I see the young man, I am relieved. Auntie is good, my name is Pingfan, I am a friend of Bulma, not a boyfriend. When Ordinary saw Bulma's mother, he immediately thought of the performance of Bulma's mother in the Dragon Ball plot he saw in his previous life, and immediately felt his scalp numb. And Bulma heard her mother arrange her bad temper in front of the Ordinary, and she may not find a boyfriend, and she was immediately unhappy, arguing, who has a bad temper, I have a good temper, and then say boyfriend, I will definitely find a super handsome boyfriend, envy you, hum. Bulma's mother listened to her daughter's complaints, not angry at all, but still said to Pingfan, look, this is not a bad temper, what is a bad temper? Ordinary embarrassed didn't know how to speak. Bulma's mother continued, Ordinary, since my daughter can't look at you, come and date me, I think about it, tomorrow we will eat delicious food, I want to eat that food for a long time. Listening to Bulma's mother's words, Pingfan suddenly broke into a cold sweat, and quickly said to Bulma, Bulma, I'll go first, and I'll play with you next time. Then Pingfan said to Bulma's mother, goodbye auntie. After that, just pull out your legs and run. Bulma's mother still smiled and said, Ordinary, next time we will date. Hearing Bulma's mother's words, Ordinary ran faster, and disappeared on the road with a puff of smoke. Bulma said to her mother, you've scared one of my friends away again. Bulma's mother still had a smile on her face, and then said to Bulma, you have to learn to judge people's hearts, just now I was helping you test this young man. This Ordinary is not bad, although the people are a little ordinary, and the people also have a little heart, but I can see that others are not bad, they are an object that can be associated, you can try. It turned out that all the performances just now were pretended by Bulma's mother, just to test the performance of Bulma's friends. Because Bulma is the golden lady of the capsule group, there have been many ill-intentioned people who have appeared around Bulma since she was a child, so Bulma's mother pretends to be like this every time to test Bulma's friends. Of course, it is also because Bulma's mother was born like this, so she is also a true acting, but it will be a little more pompous than getting along with her family. Bulma said disdainfully, humph, you think too much, your daughter has nothing worth cheating others except for a little money. Besides, our family's money cannot be spent for hundreds of lifetimes, thousands of lifetimes. Even if you are cheated away, what does it matter?" Suddenly, Bulma's mother was a little crying and laughing, and couldn't help but sigh in her heart, "My stupid daughter, if it's just to cheat money, then it doesn't matter. I'm afraid that there are bad people who want to cheat your money and your heart." In the evening, at Bulma's home, a family of 3 enjoyed a sumptuous dinner made by the kitchen robot at the table. Bulma thought that her father was the chairman of the capsule group, and many people would befriend their father every year, and someone might tell her father the story of Dragon Ball, so Bulma asked Dr. Brives, "Dad, do you know the legend of Dragon Ball?" Dr. Brives is a middle-aged man with glasses, wearing a white scientific coat all year round, and he looks slovenly. Dr. Brives said, "Dragon Ball, I have really heard. Someone told me that collecting 7 Dragon Balls can summon the Divine Dragon to make a wish, and the Divine Dragon can grant any of your wishes." "Humph, this is too fake. I am a scientist, how can I be deceived by such a little trick?" Hearing that her father did not believe in the legend of Dragon Ball, Bulma couldn't help but be a little discouraged. It seems that it is more difficult to find her father to help. Just as Bulma was thinking about how to start looking for the Dragon Ball, she suddenly heard Dr. Brives say, "By the way, the person who lied to me, in order to make me believe, gave me a glass ball with 2 stars, saying that this is the Dragon Ball, and I threw it out." When Bulma heard her father say that he had a 2-star Dragon Ball in his hand, she immediately interrupted him, stood up and asked loudly. Chapter 4. Dr. Brives was taken aback by his daughter's excitement and defended in a low voice, "It's not Dragon Ball, it's just a special glass ball. Whether it's a Dragon Ball or a glass ball, I want to ask, where is it?" Bulma continued to ask. "Oh, it seems to be in the warehouse at home, and I don't know where I put it," Dr. Brives replied. After listening to her father's answer, Bulma stopped eating and ran to her warehouse. But when Bulma opened her own warehouse, her heart suddenly became half cold, because this warehouse is too big, and there are too many things in it. When do you want to find it by yourself? Suddenly Bulma thought of the ordinary. This first wish is ready to give the ordinary, let him help find the Dragon Balls should be no problem. Of course, there is no problem, but I don't seem to have ordinary contact information. Alas, it's all to blame for my mother, scaring people away, otherwise how could I have made such a big mistake?" The other side said goodbye to Bulma's ordinary, was frightened by Bulma's mother, and ran directly back to the house in one breath. Until the door of the house was closed, Pinkfan breathed a sigh of relief and relieved his heart that was beating violently because of running. Because it was too late, Pinkfan began to prepare dinner for himself, and just as Pinkfan was making dinner, he remembered that he had not exchanged contact information with Bulma. There is no way. Pinkfan is ready to go to Bulma's school near Bulma's school tomorrow to wait for her to finish school, and then exchange contact information. Ordinary never imagined that just one night, Bulma got news of a Dragon Ball, and soon they will embark on a journey to find Dragon Ball. The next evening, Pinkfan came to Bulma's school gate and waited for her to finish school. Soon, Pinkfan saw a blue-haired Bulma among the students after school, and Pinkfan quickly waved, "Bulma." Bulma also saw the ordinary, and after saying goodbye to her classmates, she rode her motorcycle to the ordinary side. "Hi, ordinary, I was still thinking yesterday, how can I notify you without your contact information? Fortunately you came to me today, otherwise I really don't know how to tell you this good news." Seeing ordinary, Bulma said happily. "Good news?" Ordinary eyes suddenly lit up, and he continued to ask, "Have you thought of how to make Dragon Ball radar?" Bulma smiled and said, "No, I haven't made the Dragon Ball radar yet, but I believe it's soon. The good news today is not just that I can build a Dragon Ball radar, but that we are about to have our first Dragon Ball." "Dragon Ball, how many planets?" Pinkfan immediately asked, "Can I take a look? I haven't seen Dragon Ball yet." Bulma smiled and said, "How can I bring such an important thing to school? The Dragon Ball is now in my house, you go back with me, I will take you to see the Dragon Ball that you have in mind." In order to avoid running away because of her mother, Bulma decided not to mention that the Dragon Ball was still in the warehouse and was not found. Get on Bulma's motorcycle, Bulma refuels the accelerator, and the maglev motorcycle spurs towards Bulma's home. Soon arrived at Bulma's home. After getting out of the car, Ping Fan suddenly thought of Bulma's mother, and then asked cautiously, "Auntie is not at home now, right?" Looking at the ordinary appearance, Bulma suddenly found that it was not a bad thing to have such a mother who liked to prank, so the evil taste also followed, so she said lightly, "Don't worry, she should be shopping at the mall now, she won't come back until dinner." Hearing that Bulma's mother was not at home, Pingfan immediately breathed a sigh of relief, relaxed his body again, and then asked Bulma, "Bulma, what about Dragon Ball, quickly show me." Bulma said, "You come with me, the Dragon Ball is in my warehouse." After speaking, she took a maglev pedal from the foot of the wall and handed it to Pingfan, and then she also drove one herself to lead the way in front. Looking at the maglev pedal in his hand, Ordinary felt novel, and also learned Bulma to stand up, and then pressed the forward button, and the maglev pedal began to drive forward. The warehouse was not far away, on the first floor, and Bulma quickly arrived at the door of the warehouse with the Ordinary. Bulma opened the door of the warehouse, led Ordinary to walk in, turned on the light, and suddenly a huge warehouse appeared in front of Ordinary Fan. Pingfan was slightly amazed at the sheer size of Bulma's warehouse, and then asked, "Where is the Dragon Ball?" Bulma then said embarrassedly, "I'm sorry, yesterday my father told me that he had received a Dragon Ball gift before, but he put it in this warehouse, so now you need to look for it with me in this warehouse, you won't refuse, right?" Saying that, Bulma still looked at the Ordinary with a pitiful look, and her blue pupils were full of pitiful expressions. Ping Fan only felt that he was a little dry mouth, and said in a hoarse voice, of course, there is no problem, or I will come to find Dragon Ball, this kind of hard work should be done by us men." Bulma waited for the Ordinary words, and she immediately said, "Okay, that's no problem, I'll go out and get you something to drink, by the way, what drink do you want to drink?" Ordinary said, "Just boiled water." "Okay, then you are busy first, I'll go out for a while, stay at my house for dinner later, you can try the craft of my cooking robot." After saying that, Bulma went out. Originally, Ordinary was ready to say that it was not necessary to eat dinner, but seeing Bulma go out, Ordinary could only retract the words into his stomach. Looking at this warehouse, which was the size of a football field, Ping Fan sighed and said to himself, "Let's work." After that, the Ordinary began to look for something in the warehouse. While Ordinary was looking for Dragon Ball, Bulma's mother walked into the warehouse with a glass of water. Pingfan heard the footsteps, and thought it was Bulma, and said without raising his head, "Bulma, your warehouse is so big, it is too time-consuming to simply look for it like this. Have you zoned the warehouse before, those areas that often take things we cannot be busy looking for first? First find some places that are not often visited, so that the speed can be faster." "Ah, I didn't expect Mr. Ping to be so smart, I'm really getting more and more satisfied. Are you sure you don't want to be boyfriend and girlfriend with my daughter?" Bulma's mother said as she stood aside with a smile. Chapter 5. Hearing this voice, Pingfan's body suddenly froze, and then immediately raised his head and straightened up to greet Bulma's mother. "Auntie, hello, I really didn't expect you to personally bring me a drink." Bulma's mother smiled and said, "I just saw you come in with Bulma in the flower room on the third floor, so I took the initiative to ask for it. You drink it quickly, I personally brewed this drink, do you taste it or not?" Bulma's mother said with a smile. Ping Fan didn't think much about it, and immediately took a sip of the drink, but after Ping Fan took a sip, he immediately vomited it out, and almost didn't spray on Bulma's mother. Ordinary opened his mouth and shouted, "Hot, hot, hot." After speaking, he quickly put the drink on the shelf next to him. At this time, Bulma's mother said a little crying, You are really anxious, this has just been poured, and it is still very hot. Open your mouth and I'll take a look." Bulma's mother gently lifted Pingfan's chin and made Pingfan's mouth open. Ordinary stood there with a bewildered face, obediently opening his mouth. Bulma's mother said, "It's okay, it's not very serious, be careful in the future." Looking at the Ordinary, who had been overwhelmed because of herself, Bulma's mother said, "Okay, I won't bother you, you slowly find the Dragon Ball, I'll go out first." After Bulma's mother went out, Ping Fan breathed a sigh of relief. He only felt funny watching her tease Goku and Vegeta on TV before. But when I crossed over and was teased, I felt so much pressure in ordinary people. Fortunately, this time is not like the first meeting, Bulma's mother has obviously converged a lot. Ordinary continued to look for the Dragon Balls in the warehouse. This search was for nearly 3 days, during which Bulma would occasionally come in to help Ordinary find it, but the main search force was still Ordinary doing. On the 3rd day, Pingfan finally found the Dragon Ball at the bottom of a grocery box, and there were 2 stars inside, which were the Dragon Balls of the 2nd planet. "Bulma, found it, I found the Dragon Ball." Bulma, who was writing her homework in the room, heard an Ordinary voice through the microphone. It didn't take long for Bulma to drive the maglev scooter to the hall, and then saw the 2-star Dragon Ball on the table. Bulma asked, "Are you sure this is Dragon Ball?" Ping Fan said, "There should be no mistake, although I have not seen Dragon Balls, but there should be no mistake, besides, there is no point in making fake Dragon Balls, this cannot be sold for money." Bulma nodded, then picked up the Dragon Ball and said, let's go to the laboratory and see if there is anything special about this Dragon Ball." In the lab, Bulma placed the Dragon Balls on the lab bench and carried out a series of scans and tests, and soon a waveform graphic appeared on the display screen of the instrument scanning the Dragon Balls. Bulma pointed to this waveform diagram with an excited look and said to Pingfan, "Did you see it?" Ping Fan glanced at the waveform diagram a little dazedly and asked, "See something, wavy lines?" For a person who went out to work before graduating from high school in his previous life, electromagnetic waves are too difficult for him. Bulma despised the Ordinary, and then said, "This is an extremely special electromagnetic wave, changing its wavelength all the time. I can create a Dragon Ball radar based on this, so that we can detect the position of the Dragon Ball." Ordinary said happily, "Really, that's great, I know that Bulma is the smartest person in the world." The first day, Ordinary crazy patting Bulma's. Bulma enjoyed the Ordinary horse fart very much, with a smug expression, but while waving his hand, he said modestly in his mouth, "Oh, don't say that, in fact, I am also general, these are basic operations." After the Dragon Ball is found, the next is to make the Dragon Ball radar, but these Ordinary can't help. So this matter pressed on Bulma's body. Fortunately, for mechanical manufacturing, Bulma is too talented, and also very fond of, even fanatical. In just over a week, Bulma created a relatively large Dragon Ball radar. This Dragon Ball radar is about the size of a 14-inch laptop, with a circular screen and a handle on each side that can be held in one or both hands. Now it's just a prototype. I'm designing a smaller, portable Dragon Ball radar, but that's more difficult to make, and I'm designing radar drawings right now," Bulma said. Ping Fan nodded and said, "This is already very good, how should I operate it now?" So Bulma began to explain to the Ordinary how the Dragon Ball radar operates, and after pressing the switch, a display screen will appear, and there is a rotary button at the top of the radar, which can adjust the size of the radar screen by rotating. When the radar turned on, Bulma exclaimed. Ping Fan asked, "What's wrong?" Bulma said, "The radar shows that this second Dragon Ball is very close to us, only more than 60 kilometers, and it seems to be in the mountains in the north. What should I think? Ping Fan quickly asked. So Bulma taught Ordinary how to watch the Dragon Ball radar and how to calculate the position distance of the Dragon Ball. After teaching the Ordinary, Bulma said, "You see, now the Dragon Ball radar has shrunk to the minimum, and there are 7 small dots flashing on this radar, which just verifies what you said, there are 7 Dragon Balls in total. The little dot in the middle is our second planet, and the closest Dragon Ball to us is this one, to our north." Ping Fan nodded and said, "In that case, then I will go there in the afternoon to retrieve the Dragon Balls." But Bulma said, "No, I'll go with you too. But you're going to school in the afternoon, and it's too dangerous, we have no idea where the Dragon Balls have fallen, what if there are dinosaurs or yokai there?" Ordinary said. Bulma insisted, "We said yes, we're going out on an adventure together to find the Dragon Balls. Besides, isn't there still you, you're not going to put me in danger, are you? We can also bring guns, and if we are really in danger, we will run." Ordinary. Still persuaded, Bulma directly threatened, "If you don't take me over, I can go out by myself, you must know that the Dragon Ball radar is made by me. Okay, I can take you out to find the Dragon Balls, but you must follow my command, and you can't run around." Ordinary said solemnly. "Yes sir." Bulma immediately happily agreed. Chapter 6. On weekends, Bulma school is closed. According to the two's Dragon Ball collection plan, Ping Fan drove a motorcycle with Bulma to the suburbs north of the western capital. Ordinary parked his car outside the mountains and walked towards the mountains with Bulma with a machete in hand. Because this mountainous area is located on the outskirts of the western capital, people often come here on their days off, so for the safety of the people, the National Guard will clean up the northern mountain from time to time. Bulma didn't think there would be any danger in Kitayama, and she walked in front with a big grin in her Dragon Ball radar. Ordinary followed Bulma with a machete to keep her safe. Although Bulma got the Dragon Balls here very smoothly in the manga, who knows if the plot will change because of herself. "We're almost there, it should be around here," Bulma said, and after saying that, she saw the machete in hand, nervous and Ordinary. "Don't be so nervous, there are so many dangers, don't you think we're safe now?" Bulma comforted. Just as Bulma's voice fell, there was a sound of friction in the bushes, and something was rapidly approaching the Ordinary people. Hearing this voice, Bulma, who was originally not very bold, ran behind the Ordinary in an instant. "Is there a monster coming?" Bulma asked tremblingly. Ping Fan said, "It's okay, it should be an ordinary beast." The sound of friction was getting closer and closer, and with a poof, a huge wild boar ran out of the bushes, lowered its head and showed its sharp fangs and rushed towards Ordinary. Bulma was startled and suddenly felt that hiding behind Ordinary people did not seem to be very safe, so she turned and hid behind a giant tree. Ping Fan took a deep breath and was ready to strike at this wild boar, but he didn't expect that this wild boar didn't stop at all, and directly passed through Ordinary and ran into the distance. Just when Ping Fan breathed a sigh of relief, a saber-toothed tiger suddenly jumped out of the bushes. It was obvious that this saber-toothed tiger was chasing the wild boar just now, but after seeing the Ordinary, its gaze was suddenly attracted by the Ordinary. Looking at the Ordinary who was guarding with a knife, this saber-toothed tiger didn't care at all, and roared and rushed towards the Ordinary. It opened its mouth wide, and the white light reflected by its long sharp canine teeth in the air, and for a while Ordinary people felt a little dazzling. The Ordinary reaction was also very fast, dodging to the side before the saber-toothed tiger pounced, and then after the saber-toothed tiger landed, a sideways kick directly hit the saber-toothed tiger's waist. The saber-toothed tiger was directly kicked out by Ping Mian, hit the tree next to it, and then fell heavily to the ground. It was also Ordinary that did not use all his strength, and the saber-toothed tiger immediately got up from the ground. However, he should still be injured, and his walking figure is obviously not as agile as before. The saber-toothed tiger leaned down again, seemingly ready to attack again, and Ordinary was not to be outdone. Then the saber-toothed tiger roared, turned, and fled into the bushes. Yes, that's right, ran away, and Bulma, who was cheering the Ordinary loudly, called the other party a coward with an unhappy look. Ping Fan said, "Forget it, let's hurry up to find the Dragon Ball, look at the radar. How far we are from the Dragon Ball now?" Bulma looked at the radar and said, "The radar shows that the Dragon Ball is over there, follow me." After that, Bulma walked forward first through the bushes, and Ordinary quickly followed to avoid Bulma's danger. After a while, Ping Fan found Bulma standing there motionless, and he strangely stepped forward and asked, "What's wrong?" Bulma said, "No, the Dragon Ball radar shows that the Dragon Ball is in this position, but why didn't I see the Dragon Ball?" Ping Fan looked at the Dragon Ball radar and found that there were indeed 2 Dragon Balls flashing in their current location, one of which was their second planet, and the other should be the new Dragon Ball, but this position did not see the Dragon Ball. Ordinary said, "Since there is no on the ground, it can only be on the tree or underground. You wait a minute, I'll climb the trees around and see." So Ping Fan quickly climbed several big trees around, and after 10 minutes, Ordinary returned without success, and said, "I just checked, there are no Dragon Balls on the surrounding trees, and now it seems that Dragon Balls can only be underground. Ah! Do we still need to dig holes, and who knows how deep we need to dig?" Bulma asked. Ping Fan thought for a while and said, "The Dragon Ball cannot appear underground out of thin air, only it may have fallen into a gap in the ground when the Dragon Ball fell, or in a cave. Although this North Mountain has some streams, it should not be enough to corrode the surface to form a cave, so the Dragon Ball is underground, most likely because of the cave." We looked around to see if there were any caves nearby. After speaking, Ping Fan and Bulma began to look around. Bulma said, "It seems that the new Dragon Ball radar, I need to improve it and integrate it with our detection satellite. In this case, if the current situation occurs again and again in the future, I can use the detection satellite to detect the terrain, so that I can directly display the underground terrain on the radar screen." Ping Fan nodded and praised, "Bulma, you are the smartest girl I have ever met." Hearing the Ordinary praise, Bulma couldn't help but laugh proudly, "Ha ha ha ha, I also feel so, you don't have a crush on sister, sister is a legend." They 2 chatted idly while looking for a cave that might hide the Dragon Balls, and after a while, at the other end of the mountain, Ordinary found a cave. According to the direction of extension inside the cave, if nothing else, the Dragon Ball should be inside. Ping Fan turned on a flashlight and shone it inside, and then said, "Do you think there will be ghosts or something like that?" Bulma hid behind the Ordinary, looked at the dark cave, and couldn't help but ask worriedly. Ordinary said, "How can there be ghosts in this world?" Just after speaking, Ping Fan suddenly remembered that he seemed to be in the Dragon Ball world now, and there were ghosts in the Dragon Ball, so he changed his tone and said, "Even if there are ghosts, they should be punished in hell now." Bulma asked worriedly, "Are you sure there will be a ghost escaping from hell?" Ping Fan immediately replied, "Impossible, King Yanluo is very powerful, the ghost can't escape, you can rest assured." Seeing Bulma's scared look, Ordinary couldn't help but kindly suggest, "Otherwise, you wait for me outside, I'll go in and get the Dragon Balls, I'll be fast." "No, I'll go in with you." Bulma immediately refused, joking, "There are tigers and wild boars outside, how dare I, a weak woman, stay outside." Chapter 7. "Okay then, you follow me, let's go in and look for the Dragon Balls." Seeing that Bulma did not want to stay outside, Ordinary had to take Bulma's hand and walk towards the cave. The 2 walked towards the cave, and soon only the light of the flashlight in front of them remained, while the rest of the place was shrouded in darkness. Bulma was even more afraid in her heart, grabbed her Ordinary hand, and became harder and harder. Even with her ordinary current strength, she felt that her hand was a little painful. But Ordinary did not dare to break free, for fear of frightening Bulma. After all, in this life, he brought her into danger in finding Dragon Ball. The cave was very quiet, except for the footsteps of two people. There were only the sounds of two people's breathing, of which the Ordinary breathing was very light and steady, while Bulma's breathing was very heavy and rapid. "Ordinary, haven't we found the Dragon Ball yet?" Bulma suddenly asked in a low voice. The seemingly light sound is still very loud in such a quiet cave, and there is a large echo. Just as Bulma's voice came to the distance of the cave, a group of very fierce voices suddenly appeared in the cave, and in an instant a black shadow rushed towards the Ordinary people. Ordinary was startled, and quickly protected Bulma under him, and then the black shadow flew over Ordinary them, making a sharp and piercing sound. Ordinary then found out that it was bats, and there were many bats living in this cave, and the arrival of Ordinary and Bulma alarmed this group of bats, so they flew out of the cave to avoid Ordinary them. Bulma hid under her Ordinary clothes and shivered, and when she couldn't hear a sound, Bulma stood up again and asked, "What kind of creatures are those just now?" "Ping!" Fan replied, "Nothing, just a group of bats. After all, we broke into their territory, no wonder they flew over to scare us." Bulma then relieved her mood, and then said, "It turned out to be a bat, it scared me to death. Let's hurry up and find Dragon Ball. I'll take a look at the Dragon Ball radar to see how far we are from Dragon Ball." After that, Bulma took out the Dragon Ball radar, and then carefully checked it and found that the Dragon Ball was very close to them, about 100 meters. Hearing that there were still almost 100 meters, Ping Fan immediately pulled Bulma and quickened his pace. This time, no other creatures came out to disturb them, and the two arrived near the new Dragon Ball very smoothly. Because the Dragon Balls are close to each other, as they approach with the two planets, soon the Dragon Balls in the cave also begin to flicker with a faint light. Ping Fan immediately shouted, "Bulma, I saw it, I saw that the Dragon Balls inside were flashing, right there." After saying that, Ordinary jumped a few times and came to the side of the Dragon Ball. Ordinary picked up the Dragon Ball stuck in the cave rock, and then counted the stars inside. "Ordinary, what planets are it?" Bulma asked loudly, echoing through the cave. Ping Fan replied, 5 planets, now 7 Dragon Balls, we already have 2. "Well, let's get out quickly, this cave is really scary." Bulma shouted loudly. "Okay, let's go out." Ordinary responded. The way out of the cave is obviously faster than the speed into the cave. After all, the way out of the cave has been traveled before, and there is no danger. The two quickly walked out of the cave. And Bulma couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and then couldn't wait to say to Ping Fan, "Quick, show me the 5-star Dragon Ball." Before Ordinary could completely take out the Dragon Ball from his pocket, Bulma directly snatched the Dragon Ball over. However, after watching the Dragon Ball, Bulma was disappointed and said, "Except for the 3 more stars in it, it seems to be no different from the 2 planets." Ping Fan said with some tears and laughter, "Of course, I heard that the Dragon Ball was actually 1 back then, and it was later divided into 7 Dragon Balls by the gods." Bulma asked strangely, "Why did God do this? If it's just 1, wouldn't it be convenient for people to find the Dragon Ball?" Ping Fan scratched his head, thought about the plot, and then said, "It seems that because human beings are too greedy to fulfill 1 wish, and want to fulfill more wishes, this unearned idea makes God very angry, and finally God divides the Dragon Balls into 7, and after each wish is fulfilled, the Dragon Balls are immediately distributed around the world. Everyone who wants to collect Dragon Balls needs to go through various trials before they can collect all 7 Dragon Balls and fulfill their wishes. After that, humans finally learn that their wishes are limited, but their efforts are infinite, and as long as they work hard enough, they can achieve their wishes even without Dragon Balls." Ping Fan said and began to pour chicken soup into Bulma, which is related to ordinary Fan's experience in his previous life. Ping Fan once worked as a success lecturer for a while, but later he saw the industry clearly, and really felt that doing this was against his conscience, so he withdrew. But this habit is still retained, and sometimes the mood comes up, and it is always unconsciously poured chicken soup into humans. But who is Bulma, the chairman of the capsule group, Kyunjin, the richest man in the world in the future? Will she still drink other people's chicken soup? Generally she pours chicken soup on others. So after listening to the ordinary words, Bulma said with a smile, "Is it true that in this world, hard work can lead to success? Are you the #1 martial artist in the world through hard work?" After speaking, her eyes glanced at the Dragon Balls in her hand. Ordinary suddenly a little dumb. Hard work is just what capitalists say when encouraging the poor to create benefits for themselves. When Ordinary crosses into the world of Dragon Ball, the original world falls into a strange circle, involution. When everyone is working hard, everyone finds that their situation not only does not improve, but is getting harder and harder. The money not only does not increase, sometimes it becomes less. Not only that, but finally brings themselves a worse and worse body. In the end, everyone found that all their efforts did not bring any benefits to themselves, but their bosses were buying houses and cars, and finally discovered this fact began to choose to lie down and no longer work hard. Bulma saw that she choked Ordinary again, smiled and returned the Dragon Ball in her hand to Pingfan, and then said, "So let's try to collect Dragon Balls. With the help of Dragon Balls, your efforts will be worthwhile, otherwise, it will be just an ordinary martial artist who bullies ordinary tigers. What can Ordinary say? I can't say anything." So I obediently put the Dragon Ball in my backpack and returned to the western capital with Bulma. Chapter 8. Viewing the Dragon Balls near the western capital through the Dragon Ball radar is only 2 planets and 5 planets, and the next closest Dragon Ball is thousands of kilometers away. So Ping Fan and Bulma decided to wait for Bulma to have a summer vacation, and the two of them would set off. While waiting for the summer vacation, Bulma once again built a new Dragon Ball radar, which is a great improvement over the previous prototype. Not only has the size become very small, it can be held in one hand, but it has also increased the connection with the capsule group's detection satellite, and if it encounters a situation similar to the 5 planets again, the Dragon Ball radar can also switch map forms to find a way to find the Dragon Ball. Time was fast, and finally Bulma had summer vacation, and Pingfan and Bulma agreed that the two would set out to find Dragon Ball the next day. Bulma's mother is more opposed to her daughter going out with other men to find the Dragon Ball, but she can't stand to have a pig teammate husband and a stubborn daughter. Bulma threatened that if her mother wouldn't let her out, she might sneak away from home on her own. Seeing that she really couldn't persuade her daughter, Bulma's mother set her sights on the Ordinary. Seeing Auntie looking at herself with a smile, Ordinary couldn't help but tighten her heart, immediately got up from the chair, and promised loudly, "Auntie, don't worry, I will definitely take good care of Bulma, I will definitely not let her be hurt, as long as I don't die, I will definitely not let her get hurt." Looking at Bulma, who had a serious and ordinary face and a stubborn look, Bulma's mother couldn't help sighing, and then said, "Well, if I stop you again, it will seem that I am a bad mother." Hearing that her mother finally let go, Bulma immediately stepped forward and hugged her and thanked her. "Thank you, mother, I have a feeling that this journey to find Dragon Ball will be the most correct decision I have made in my life." Although Bulma's mother agreed, she finally said, "Remember to bring the emergency call device of the group company, press the button in case of danger, and the nearest branch of the group company will immediately send someone to you." "Okay." Bulma immediately agreed. Finally approved, the two began to prepare things that were about to go far away. In fact, the main thing was to use the capsules. Car capsules, house capsules, food capsules, ship capsules, small submarine capsules, etc. Anyway, there are 2 people, 2 backpacks. Bulma is not like in the comics this time, because she secretly ran away from home, she only secretly took a box of capsules, and finally lost them. But this time it was approved by her parents, so Bulma prepared a lot of capsules, and put all the capsules that could be used and could not be used into the backpack until the backpack of the two people could not fit. With 2 Dragon Balls in hand, Bulma said goodbye to her parents, drove a car with Ordinary, left the familiar Western capital for the first time, and drove off into the distance. Every time the two drove for a while, they took out the Dragon Ball radar to adjust the direction of progress, and drove all the way to the position of the 3rd Dragon Ball. The 2 people in the middle rested in the wilderness for 1 night, don't be blind, of course, 1 person in 1 room. Fortunately there was nothing dangerous happening this night. The next day, the 2 re-embark on a journey to find the Dragon Balls. Bulma sat on the co-pilot and said, "We are already very close to the location of the 3rd Dragon Ball, about 10 kilometers, we should have crossed that mountain, we can reach the vicinity of the 3rd Dragon Ball." Saying that, he also held up the Dragon Ball radar to Ordinary people. Ordinary didn't think much about it, turned his head to look at the Dragon Ball radar in Bulma's hand, but he didn't expect that there would be a problem with this look. Bulma turned her head and saw a boy dragging a fish in front of their car, just because it was a mountain road, neither of them saw it. Bulma screamed in fright and closed her eyes. Ordinary, who was watching the Dragon Ball radar, heard Bulma's call, immediately knew that something was wrong, and stepped on the brakes. But at this time it was too late, in a harsh brake sound, mixed with a bump, the car still hit the teenager in front. Just when Pinkfin stepped on the brakes, he had already seen that the boy in front of him was Sun Wukong, and he immediately relaxed his heart, knowing that if it was him, there would be no problem. "I'm afraid that if I just bumped into other ordinary people, it would be difficult, and if the other party died, it might have an indelible impact on myself and Bulma." Seeing that the car still hit a person in the end, Bulma couldn't help but tremble and ask, "We seem to have hit someone, we seem to have hit someone." Ping! Fan comforted, "I'll go down and take a look, be careful in the car yourself." After saying that, Pinkfin opened the car door and walked down. At this time, Goku was covering his head and shouting pain, 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 and then saw that a person actually came down from the monster who hit him. He quickly stood up, took out his Ruyi stick from behind, then aimed it at the car, and shouted loudly, "Yukai, you are really eating people, die quickly." After that, they will hold up the wishful stick and hit the Ordinary people's car. Ordinary was shocked, but Bulma was still in the car, and he quickly stepped forward to look between Sun Wukong and the car. Sun Wukong, who was rushing forward with a baton, immediately stopped his steps and asked Pinkfin, "Why are you stopping me, are you an accomplice of the monster?" Saying that, he jumped back and held the Ruyi stick at Pinkfin, as if as soon as Pinkfin said that he was an accomplice of the Yukai, he would immediately attack. Pinkfan hurriedly said, "We are not monsters, this thing is called a car, and there are my friends in the car, but we can't let you break our car." They two were talking, and when they noticed that the person they hit was okay, Bulma also stepped down from the passenger seat. Seeing another person walking down from the car, Sun Wukong couldn't help but knock on the car with a Ruyi stick, making the sound of the iron sheet of bang bang being knocked. Finding that this was indeed not a monster, little Goku couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Finally seeing the protagonist of Destiny in the Dragon Ball world, Ordinary couldn't help but stretch out his hand with some excitement and introduced to Goku, "Hello, my name is Pinkfin, and this one next to me is called Bulma." Sun Wukong had seen his grandfather alone since he was a child, and he had never seen anyone else since. But when he saw Pinkfin stretching out his hand to him, he immediately understood that this was the meaning of a friendly gesture. So Sun Wukong also stretched out his hand and put it in his ordinary hand, and said, "Hello, my name is Sun Wukong, you are the first person I have seen in the outside world besides my grandfather." Chapter 9. At this time, little Goku's attention has been placed on Ordinary and Bulma. Seeing people other than his grandfather for the first time, little Goku was very curious and kept looking at Ordinary and Bulma. Ordinary and Bulma couldn't help but feel a little numb by his gaze, especially Bulma. Who is Bulma, the eldest lady of the capsule group? Although she knows how to be polite, but she also has a delicate and willful personality, so she shouted loudly, "What are you looking at? It's really impolite." Little Gaku asked a little naively, "Why do you look different from us, and your ass grows in front?" Hearing Sun Wukong ask this question, Ping Fan almost burst out laughing. Bulma broke her defense directly, and she shouted angrily, "Because I am a girl, you hillbilly." After that, she wanted to step forward and teach this guy who didn't respect girls a lesson. Ping Fan quickly stopped her and said, "Bulma dissipated his anger, he is still a child, and he has never seen a woman before, so if he doesn't know her, curiosity is inevitable." Little Gaku didn't feel anything about Bulma's inexplicable anger, and after hearing Bulma say that he was a girl, he suddenly realized, "Oh, so you are a girl." After speaking, Little Gaku immediately bowed politely to Bulma and said, "My grandfather taught me that if you meet a girl, you should treat her very politely." Looking at the clear and transparent little Wukong, Bulma knew that little Goku's actions just now were not unreasonable, but he really didn't know how to get along politely with people. Such an innocent little Gaku, Bulma really has no way to blame him. Forget it, I forgive you, but don't be so rude to girls in the future, it's really rude." Bulma waved her hand and said. Little Gaku is actually still ignorant, and he doesn't understand too much what Bulma means. But he remembered what his grandfather told him, that is, if you meet a girl, you must invite someone to dinner. So little Gaku pulled up the tail of the big fish again and said to Ordinary and Bulma, "You are the first person I have seen besides my grandfather, I invite you to dinner, this is the prey I just hit today." Unlike the manga, this time Bulma has ordinary company, so she didn't think of asking little Gaku to be a bodyguard, so she refused. "There is no need to eat." But before she finished speaking, she was interrupted by Pingfan, and Ordinary said, "Of course, there is no problem, you can also eat the food we made, let's treat each other." "Really, that's great, come with me, my home is not far ahead." Little Gaku was very happy, and immediately dragged the big fish forward. Looking at the little Gaku who was far away, Bulma asked Pingfan with some doubt, "Didn't we come to find Dragon Ball, why did we follow this little far to eat?" Ping Fan got into the car first, and while starting the car, he said, "Don't look at his age, but he is very powerful, even if I am defenseless, it will not be undamaged by a car, but you look at him, it hurts a little, and then there is no problem." Although there are not many people who know the secrets of Dragon Ball, it is not for nothing, and I don't know how much danger there will be in the future, can I deal with this danger? "So you want to bring this kid into the gang?" Bulma said directly first. "What to join the gang, we seem to be bandits and bandits." Ordinary retorted to Bulma's word of joining. "You are so insidious. In the future, I still have to be careful, don't be sold by you, I'm still counting money for you." Bulma said. Just as Ordinary was driving the car slowly following behind little Gaku, suddenly Bulma said again, "Won't look for Dragon Ball this time, it's also something you have planned earlier, right?" Ping Fan was shocked in his heart, but his face was silent, but he showed grievances and said, "How is it possible, although I told you about the Dragon Ball, it was you who took the initiative to come out together to find the Dragon Ball. Besides, you're only 16 years old this year, and I wouldn't have thought of bringing a 16-year-old little girl out to find the Dragon Balls no matter what I thought." Bulma thought for a moment as if this was the case, so she said, "Okay, I apologize, count me wronged you." Hearing that Bulma no longer doubted herself, Ordinary couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. If at the beginning, Ordinary contact with Bulma was an ulterior motive, wanting to contact the Dragon Ball radar, now Ordinary really began to consider Bulma his friend, and he didn't want to lose this friend with some minor problem. Little Goku's home is indeed not far away, and they soon came to little Goku's home. This is a small Chinese-style house, only one bedroom and one living room. The house is very small, only enough to live one person. 2 people will be a little crowded. Little Goku opens the door of his house and invites Pinkfin and Bulma inside. The Dragon Balls of the 4 planets placed on the offering platform immediately attracted everyone's attention. Ordinary was attracted to the eye because his second purpose was the 4-star Dragon Ball, and Bulma was attracted to push open the door and saw the 4-star Dragon Ball shining. Little Goku was attracted because of the 4 planets flash, and he thought that his dead grandfather was talking to him. Little Goku looked at the flashing 4 planets and immediately shouted happily, "Grandpa, Grandpa, are you talking to me?" Bulma, who followed behind, said, "What Grandpa, this is a 4-star Dragon Ball, not your grandfather." Little Goku retorted, "You are talking nonsense, this is my grandfather, he is talking to me, otherwise why would he flash?" "2 Bun, that's because we brought Dragon Balls here too, and they resonate." After that, she took out the other 2 Dragon Balls from her bag. Looking at the other 2 Dragon Balls, little Goku immediately shouted in surprise, "Hey! So many grandfathers!" Bulma explained again, "It is said that this is not your grandfather, it is called 4 planets, and my side is 2 planets and 5 planets, you can count." After listening to it, little Goku looked inside the Dragon Ball, counted, found that it was indeed so, and said, "It's really like this." Bulma then flickered, "Yes, so this is the Dragon Ball, not your grandfather, you give us the Dragon Ball, we can collect all 7 Dragon Balls, and then make a wish to the dragon." Chapter 10. "No, this is a relic left to me by my grandfather, I can't give it to others," little Goku said very stubbornly. No matter how much Bulma persuades, little Goku has no intention of giving the Dragon Balls to others. At this time, Pinkfin came up and asked little Wukong, "Wukong, you are also a martial artist, right?" "Martial deist, what is this?" Little Goku looked confused, not knowing what Ordinary meant by asking himself. Ordinary is not nonsense, directly opened the fight, hit a set of 12 tan legs learned in the previous life. There is a way is that the hand is 2 doors, all by foot to hit people. The Ordinary in the previous life was an ordinary person, but crossing to the earth of Dragon Ball, the physical fitness has been greatly improved, and these 12 tan legs are used in the Ordinary, and they are also tigers and tigers. Little Wukong was excited to see it, and suddenly asked expectantly, "Ordinary, you are so powerful, let's compete, right?" Ping! Fan immediately nodded and said, "Of course, if you want to become an excellent martial artist, fighting with others is the fastest way to improve." After hearing Pinkfin's promise, Goku jumped in front of Pinkfin's front and took a stance. At this time, Xiao Wukong, who was originally smiling innocently, became serious. He had only fought with his grandfather before, so he didn't know how his strength was compared to other martial artists, but he desperately hoped to fight other martial artists. Looking at the 2 serious guys and the gradually increasing tense atmosphere, Bulma couldn't help but become nervous. Little Goku took the lead in making a move, flying with a step, and attacked Ordinary with a fist. Ordinary took a step back, and then pulled Goku's fist away, and the 2 instantly began to exchange hands. Fists collided, and the sound of fierce fighting spread out. Tan Leg mainly pays attention to the simultaneous attack on and off the road. The fist method is mostly chopping and smashing and other powerful attack moves, and the leg method is exquisite. The leg is 3 inches no more than the knee, the move is small, the speed is fast, and there are many poisonous moves in the move. Flawed. Probably because little Goku hasn't fought with anyone for a long time, the 2 fought for a while, and little Goku had a flaw in his move. Ordinary grasped the opportunity, an inch of leg, directly hit Goku's supporting calf. The powerful force instantly made Goku lose his balance, about to fall down, and then Ordinary a knee hit Goku's abdomen, and finally clasped his hands into fists, directly hit Goku's back. Goku was hit and fell to the ground. After Bulma saw it, she was very surprised and worried. In her opinion, Goku is still too young, the to fight. Ordinary itself is already a bully, and now it is such a heavy hand. But before Bulma could finish worrying, Goku, who was lying on the ground, stood up again and patted the dust on his body, without any damage, as if the ordinary attack just now was just tickling him. Goku showed a happy smile, looked at Pingfan, and then said, "Pingfan, you are really amazing, I want to start serious." Bulma then understood why Ordinary had to pull Goku into the team, and after being attacked so badly, but not being injured in any way, this Monkey King was too powerful. The two put on a fight again, and Goku attacked again, but this time he was faster, and in an instant he came to Pingfan, who was just about to punch and attack. But Goku dodged to the Ordinary side with a dodge, and in the Ordinary blind spot, Goku kicked over with a side kick. When Goku's figure disappeared, Ordinary knew that something was wrong, and immediately leaned down and ushered in a vicious wind flying over his head. The strong wind makes Ordinary hair a little messy. Goku slashed over Pingfan's head, and after landing, he turned back to Pingfan's attack again. This time Pingfan found Goku's figure, and the two fought together again, but at this time the attack and defense changed, and now it was Goku's turn to attack, and Ordinary tried his best to defend. Long Stay is bound to lose. Goku a false move directly shook through the Ordinary defense, and then hit the Ordinary abdomen with a punch, and the powerful force immediately made the Ordinary lose its combat effectiveness and fell to the ground. Goku did not continue to attack, but asked Pingfan with concern, "Pingfan, are you okay?" Seeing that Ordinary was so painful, Bulma also ran over, stretched out her hand to help Ordinary up, and asked with concern, "Ordinary, is there anything wrong?" Ping! Fan hugged his abdomen, waved his hand to them, and said in a muffled voice, "It's not a big deal, you let me slow down." After a long time, Ordinary felt that the pain was slowly dissipating, and only then did he get back on his feet. Ping Fan stretched out his hand to little Wukong, and then said, "Wukong, go on an adventure with us, you have such kung fu, you should not take this small mountain village, you should go to the vast world and fight with more martial artists. Are those people as good as Ordinary you?" Little Goku asked curiously. Ping Fan suddenly smiled bitterly and said, "What is my strength? I am an extremely ordinary martial artist, and there are too many masters outside." "Really? Then I'm willing to go out with you, and I'm going to fight those powerful martial artists." Little Goku immediately shouted excitedly. The three enjoyed a sumptuous lunch. Son Goku packed the 4 planets in a bag and tied them to his belt, and the 3 of them drove towards the location of the 4th Dragon Ball in a car. The sun slowly set to the west, and little Goku, who was going out for the first time, stuck his head out the window, enjoying the breeze driven by the car, and his face was full of joy. At this time, Bulma suddenly stepped on the brakes, then pushed open the door and walked deep into the grass, shouting loudly as she went, "I'll go for convenience, you are not allowed to peek." Ordinary also said, "You be careful, don't go too far, be careful that there is danger." Little Goku asked with a curious look, "Bulma, what's wrong, what is she doing?" Ping! Fan thought about it or explained to Wukong in a low voice, and little Goku shouted in surprise, "Isn't it okay to solve this roadside solution?" Ordinary had to continue to explain, "Because Bulma is a girl." "Oh, that's still quite troublesome to be a girl," little Goku said, ordinary and silent. At this moment, a huge pterosaur, holding Bulma in his hand, jumped out from the depths of the jungle. Bulma shouted, "Ordinary, Goku, save me!" Little Goku looked at the pterosaur with a confused look and asked, "Bulma, is it your friend?" As for Pingfan, he attacked the pterosaur directly and said to Goku, "This is not our friend, it wants to eat Bulma." Saying that, Pingfan dodged the tail attack of the pterosaur, directly kicked the back of the pterosaur, and directly kicked it down. After a few fights, the pterosaur found that he was holding a person in his hand, which was not an ordinary opponent at all, so he wanted to fly to the sky, because neither of the two people in front of him looked like they could fly. The pterosaur flapped its wings, and then said to Ordinary and Gaku, "Haha, although you are very powerful, but unfortunately you can't fly, I will go first, and when I am full, I will come back to solve you." Bulma shouted loudly in the hands of the pterosaur, "Ordinary, Gaku, save me, I don't want to be food for this big ugly dragon." Seeing that the pterosaur was about to fly away, Ping Fan said to little Wukong, "Wukong, use the Ruyi stick to knock it down." When Wukong heard it, he directly pulled out his Ruyi stick and shouted, "Long!" Then he saw that the Ruyi stick instantly lengthened, and then Wukong held it with both hands, and with a strong swing, the Ruyi stick directly hit the head of the pterosaur. Chapter 11. The pterosaur, who was hit by the little Wukong Ruyi stick, directly screamed and then slipped down from the air. Bulma, who was originally held by it, also fell down with it, making a terrible cry in the air. Ordinary jumped into the air and saved Bulma before she fell to the ground. Although she was safe, the thought that she had just been almost eaten by a dinosaur made Bulma so frightened that her legs and feet were soft and she could only sit on the ground. Ping Fan asked next to him, "Bulma, are you okay? You're already safe." Bulma stiffly turned her head to look at Ping Fan, and then suddenly cried, "I still can't hold back, my pants are wet." Well, this is also a matter of no way, any ordinary person who encounters that kind of situation, cannot be scared to pee, there are really not many situations. Because Bulma had just encountered danger and was emotional, the three of them found an open space near here to rest for the night and continue to set out tomorrow. In a place close to the water source, the three finally found a suitable open space. Bulma took the capsule box out of her bag, took out a house capsule from it, and then pressed it and threw it into the clearing. With a touch, a round modern house appeared in front of the three people. Seeing such a magical operation, little Gaku was startled, and immediately pulled out his Ruyi stick, aimed it at Ping Fan and Bulma, and shouted loudly, "Also say that you are not monsters?" Bulma was immediately speechless, and cursed in a low voice, "Two buns." Then said to Ping Fan, "Ping Fan, this little guy is handed over to you, you introduce him, I will go to the bath first. By the way, help me prepare a hearty dinner, I'm going to eat steak." After saying that, Bulma pushed open the door and walked in. Previously, before departure, the two made an agreement that Bulma would accompany Ping Fan to collect Dragon Balls, but along the way, Ping Fan was responsible for cooking. When little Gaku saw Bulma enter the room, he couldn't help but be shocked and said, "Ah, ah, ah. Ordinary, the monster ate Bulma." Ping Fan explained to little Wukong, "Wukong, this is a capsule, and a lot of things can be conjured up in it, such as the car we just rode in is also conjured up by a capsule." After saying that, as soon as he pressed the button on the car immediately touched and shrunk back into a capsule, which frightened little Gaku again. Ordinary showed the capsule in his hand to little Wukong, so little Wukong looked at the capsule in Ordinary palm's palm very curiously. "It's amazing that a car that big can become so small," little Gaku said with a novel look. Ping Fan handed the capsule in his hand to little Wukong and said encouragingly, "Do you want to try it too?" Little Gaku is not a person who can be afraid. Listening to Ordinary words, he took the capsule in Ordinary hand, and then pressed the button on the capsule, learning Bulma to throw it into the open space in front of him. With a bump, the car from before reappeared in the clearing. Then little Gaku walked to the side of the car and pressed the button to turn the car back into a capsule. With a touch sound, the car turned back into a small capsule again, and little Gaku picked up the capsule on the ground and returned it to Ping Fan, saying, "This time I believe that you are not a monster." Listening to Goku's such naive language, Ordinary couldn't help but reach out and rub his hair, and said silently in his heart, "This is the head of the first person in the future universe, or touch it now, there will be no chance in the future." Then he said, let's go into the house, and I'll make you steak to eat. One after the other, the two walked into the domed room. Bulma went to take a bath. Pinkfin took out the remote control to turn on the TV for little Gaku, and then said, Gaku, you can watch TV first, you can learn a lot of content in the city. While Gaku was watching TV with interest, Pinkfin entered the kitchen and began to prepare dinner for everyone. Just when the ordinary is preparing dinner and moving the food to the table one by one, Bulma also came out of the bathroom after taking a shower and wearing a yukata with a mask on her face, which immediately startled Gaku again. Fortunately, Gaku recognized this as Bulma and did not shout about the yukai again, but wondered why Bulma put something on his face. Gaku walked up to Bulma's side and looked at Bulma very curiously. Bulma was a little hairy by little Goku's stare, and couldn't help but ask nervously, why are you looking at me like this? Little Gaku didn't speak, and suddenly reached out and lifted Bulma's yukata, revealing the inside. Bulma was so embarrassed that she slapped little Goku's head and scolded loudly, bastard, lust, idiot, I'm going to kill you. Although he was slapped to the ground by Bulma, little Gaku did not care, but shouted loudly in surprise, Bulma, you actually don't have a tail. Originally angry Bulma shouted even louder, you fool, human beings have no tails, and people have long tails, so wouldn't they be monsters? But I have a long tail. Little Gaku pointed to himself and said, in order to prove that he was not lying, he also took off his pants and revealed his tail. Bulma was suddenly surprised, and the original shame disappeared in an instant, staring curiously at little Goku's constantly wagging tail. How can someone grow a tail in their ass? Bulma muttered. Ordinary said at this time, there are no wonders in the world, don't say that some people have long tails, and some people have eyes on their foreheads, it's not strange to see more, everyone come to dinner. After listening to the ordinary words, Bulma did not feel strange, and sat down on the table with little Gaku to eat the ordinary dinner prepared. It's a pity that ordinary forgot for a while that the scions are particularly edible, and the food he prepared was simply not enough for Sun Wukong to eat, and after a while, Gaku ate all his dinner, but he still felt that he was not full. There was no way to go into the kitchen to continue to prepare food, and these foods did not continue to be carefully cooked, but directly and simply grilled, and then gave it to little Gaku to eat. It wasn't until Pinkfin and Bulma ate a third of their food reserves that Gaku was full. Pinkfan sighed and said, it seems that when we reach the next town, we need to prepare more food. When dinner was finished, Gaku and Pinkfin took a shower separately, and then went back to their rooms to sleep. At this moment, two of the first boss Piraf's men, under his command, were flying towards the ordinary them, ready to snatch the 3 Dragon Balls of the ordinary them. Chapter 12. Although Ordinary watched the plot of Dragon Ball when he was a child, he only knows the general film and television plot until now, and he still knows the keynotes of the Dragon Ball plot, but the detailed content is really not too clear. So for this time Pilaf sent his subordinates to snatch the Dragon Ball. He really can't remember clearly, so he didn't make any arrangements, and he didn't need to make any arrangements, ordinary confidence that with him and Gaku there, few people on Earth can snatch the Dragon Ball from them now. While Pinkfin, Gaku, and Bulma were sleeping in their room, Mai and Correction were flying towards Dragon Valley where they were in the plane. Because Piraf's Dragon Ball radar is very inaccurate and can only show the approximate location, 3 Dragon Balls appear in Dragon Valley, so Xiao Mai and Chu fly the plane to hover over Dragon Valley. However, they do know one thing, that is, the 3 Dragon Balls located in the Dragon Valley should have been collected, and if no one collected them, it would be impossible to have 3 Dragon Balls together at the same time. In this way, Xiao Mai and Chuyu can find the Dragon Ball as long as they find the trace of people. Under the cover of the mountains on both sides, the Dragon Valley is pitch black, and among the plains in the sky, Xiao Mai and Chiu have no way to find the capsule houses in the valley, but they can't fly too low, so the sound of the aircraft engine will wake up the person who owns the Dragon Ball. Xiao Wu landed the plane on the flat place at the top of the mountain, and then said to Xiu, "Let's go, let's walk to the valley to find the Dragon Balls, pay attention to bring weapons." After that, open the hood of the plane, and then with a dashing backflip, jump from the plane to the ground at the top of the mountain. A man and a dog descended from the top of the mountain into the valley using a drop rope, and then they began to swagger through the valley. But they didn't search for long, and in the night around them, many pairs of red eyes suddenly appeared, accompanied by a low roar. Xiao Wu immediately raised the submachine gun in his hand and roared loudly, "Who is over there? Come out, or we'll shoot." As a ninja dog, Shu pulled out the sword behind him and was ready to fight. He hadn't behaved well since he became King Pilaf's subordinate. Then when the red-eyed owners were revealed, Xiao Wu and Shu were startled. It turned out that they were surrounded by a pack of wolves. These wolves were skinny, but their eyes showed cruelty and hunger, and their red eyes stared at Xiao Wu and Shu deadly. Xiao Wu said to Shu, "You talk to them, ask them to let us go, and say that we are on the wrong path." As if insulted, Shu shouted, "They're wolves, I'm a dog, how can I talk?" Without waiting for Xiao Wu to continue speaking, a harsh wolf howl sounded, which was the howl of the Wolf King calling the wolves to attack, so all the evil wolves frantically rushed towards Xiao Wu and Shu. The two people were startled and frantically rushed to the place where there were no wolves, and Xiao Wu shot at the wolves while running. In the end, after paying for the fact that all their clothes were bitten and their bodies were full of wounds from wolf bites, they finally rushed to their own plane and drove the plane out of Dragon Valley before the wolves caught up with them. The peaceful night passed quickly. Ping Fan and Gaku had already got up first, and little Gaku was going to go out and exercise on his own. Ping Fan suggested, "Gaku, let's practice against the two of us, so that the progress is faster." Little Gaku gladly accepted the ordinary suggestion, and the two walked outside the capsule house together. After doing the warm-up activities, the two started a fight. This time Ordinary attacked first, and the two quickly fought together. The sound of fierce battle soon woke up Bulma, who was still sleeping lazily. She rubbed her eyes and walked out of the capsule room, saw the two Ordinary and Gaku who were practicing against each other, and couldn't help muttering, "Two crazy people, can you still let people sleep well?" But she only complained in her mouth, and looked again. Breakfast had not been done yet, and after thinking about it, she still went to prepare breakfast for everyone. Until Bulma made breakfast and shouted at the door, "It's breakfast!" Ordinary and little Gaku ended the morning battle. Both of them sweated, but this feeling of sweating made the two very happy. Ping Fan said, "Let's go, let's hurry back to breakfast. After breakfast, we still need to continue to look for Dragon Ball." After breakfast, the two washed up again, and Bulma put away the capsule house and prepared to start again to continue the search for the Dragon Ball. Just as they got into the car and prepared to move on, Gaku noticed that a stone was suddenly moving on the side of the road. Gaku shouted very novelly, "Ordinary, look quickly, there are stones moving." Ordinary turned his head and found that the stone that Wukong said was a huge turtle, and immediately remembered the big sea turtle next to the turtle immortal. Ordinary said, "This is not a stone, it is a turtle." After speaking, Ping Fan said to Bulma, "Bulma, stop." Bulma didn't know why, but listened to the ordinary words and stopped the car. The big sea turtle, which was originally crawling forward slowly, heard the sound of parking, and was immediately startled, and directly shrunk under its turtle shell, not daring to move. Ping Fan walked over and asked, "Mr. Turtle, do you need help?" Hearing that the other party did not want to eat himself, and asked if he needed help, the big sea turtle stretched out his head and asked, "Can you prepare some salt water for me first? I haven't drunk water for 2 days." "Of course there is no problem." Ordinary immediately released the capsule house, and then prepared a large bucket of salt water for the giant turtle. The big sea turtle quickly gulped up. Gaku looked at it curiously on the side, seeing that the big sea turtle drank so freely, it seemed to be very delicious. He couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Sea Turtle, is this delicious?" The big sea turtle handed the salt water bucket to Wukong very atmospherically, and before he could stop it, Gaku directly took the bucket and took a sip, and then directly spit it out, and said loudly, "It's so salty." Bulma laughed and took out fresh water to Gaku and asked him to flush his mouth. When the turtle finished drinking, Bulma asked, "Mr. Turtle, where are you going?" The big sea turtle said, "I am ready to return to the sea and go home." "The sea? Then you are traveling in the opposite direction. The sea is 120 kilometers to the south, and you are going north," Bulma said. "Ah! No wonder I haven't been able to reach the sea for so many days. It turns out that the direction is reversed." After that, the big sea turtle lay down on the ground dejectedly. Suddenly, the big sea turtle seemed to think of something, and then said, "My master is a turtle immortal, can you help send me to the beach? I think the turtle immortal will thank you on my behalf then." After speaking, it looked at ordinary people with expectant eyes. Chapter 13. Before she could speak, Bulma said with a smile, "No way, Mr. Turtle, we still have very important things to do. The beach is hundreds of kilometers away from us, it is too much time to send you back to the sea." Ordinary said at this time, "Bulma is right, but collecting Dragon Balls is not something that can be completed in a day or two, and it takes half a day to send Mr. Turtle back." Hearing Pinkfan say that he wanted to send the turtle back to the sea, Bulma was suddenly a little unhappy, and just wanted to continue to say something, but was stopped by Pinkfan's eyes. Pinkfan said, "It's so decided, we will leave immediately now." For the ordinary decision, Bulma is not very satisfied, but after all, this time looking for the Dragon Ball is for the ordinary, since he himself is not attentive, why should he be so attentive, although he thinks so, but his heart is inevitably a little bored. Ordinary took out a capsule of a pickup truck, and with a touch, a pickup truck appeared in front of everyone. Pinkfan put the turtle in the body of the pickup truck, and then sat in the cab of the car with Bulma and Gaku. Only then did Pinkfan say to Bulma, "You don't seem to be very happy?" "What's the use of I'm not happy, anyway, Dragon Ball is for you," Bulma said in a muffled voice. Pinkfan explained, "The owner of this turtle is a turtle immortal, this is a legendary martial artist, the current #1 master on the earth. Maybe my approach is a little utilitarian, but I spent half a day to rescue the turtle immortal's subordinates, I think it is still worth it." When Bulma heard Pinkfan say that this turtle immortal was the first in the world, she couldn't help but ask curiously, "The first in the world, bragging, right? I'd rather see if this world's #1 is true." Hearing that the world is the first, Wukong is also interested, and asked loudly, "Ordinary, what kind of turtle immortal, is it really the first in the world?" Pinkfan nodded and said, "To be precise, it should be the first in the world among human beings. After all, there are still gods on the earth, and there are servants of gods, they must be more powerful than the turtle immortals. It's so powerful, it turns out that there are so many powerful masters in the world, I really want to fight them." Gaku shouted very happily, even more happy that he could come out with ordinary people this time. Soon the pickup truck was driving to a mountainous area, with peaks on both sides sandwiched by a path. Suddenly, a huge figure suddenly appeared in front of the car, stopped in front of the car. Pinkfan immediately stepped on the brakes, and finally barely stopped in front of the other party without hitting it. However, Ordinary looked at the other party's body size and felt that even if the car hit, it was estimated that he would not necessarily be injured. This is a bare-headed man, more than 2 meters tall, a particularly strong monster. He holds a long knife in his hand. One eye does not know who blinded him, but the remaining one-eyed one saw the turtle in the body of the pickup truck at a glance. The bear monster shouted, "Give you two a choice, either the turtles stay and you go, or I will kill you and leave the turtles behind." The turtle was immediately shocked and startled, afraid that ordinary people would really leave it behind, and looked at ordinary them very nervously. Looking at the very tall bear monster in front of her, Bulma did not want to conflict with it, and suggested, "Or let's leave the turtle behind." Hearing Bulma's words, the turtle immediately shouted, "Don't, don't." Ping Fan comforted, "Don't worry, we won't keep you, since we promised you something, we will definitely finish it." The turtle breathed a sigh of relief. But the bear monster on the opposite side was not happy, and in one fell swoop, the big knife that he carried on his shoulder pointed the sharp tip of the knife at ordinary people, and said, "Toast and don't eat and punish wine, look at your little arms and legs, you go up together, I don't know if you can take my knife." The bear monster's movements frightened Bulma and the turtle, and the two immediately hid behind a mountain rock not far away. Ping Fan and Gaku looked at each other, and then in front of the bear monster, they slashed their fists to decide who would strike first. Stones, scissors, cloth. Stones, scissors, cloth. But several times in a row, the two people came out the same. Bulma, who saw the two people doing this, shouted loudly behind the stone, "You two fools, at this time, it is still decided who will go first and who will go later, and you will not let me go up together, and solve that big fool." When the bear monster heard Bulma say that he was a big fool, the one-eyed face couldn't help but glare at Bulma, which frightened Bulma to hide behind the stone again. The bear monster saw that the two small people in front of him looked down on him so much, and his heart was angry, and he slashed at Ordinary and Gaku with a wave of the long knife in his hand. When Ping Fan saw the bear monster make a move, he immediately stopped punching with Wukong, and directly shouted happily, "This is not what I want to shoot, it is the other party who wants to shoot at me." After speaking, the ordinary short body dodged a sweep from the bear monster, and then a sweeping leg, the bear monster directly lost its balance and fell down. Gaku saw that Ping Fan had made a move, and he was not willing to lag behind, and shouted, "Ordinary, you are too despicable." After speaking, a flying side kick directly hit the bear monster's jaw, and suddenly the bear monster was kicked out by Goku's powerful force, crashed into the mountain, and the stone behind it was also shattered. The bear monster fell heavily back to the ground, fainted, and the long knife made several circles in the air and was inserted back into the ground. Bulma and the turtle saw that they solved the bear monster, and only then breathed a sigh of relief and walked out again. The three of them got back into the car and drove towards the beach. Soon the sparkling sea appeared in front of everyone. Wukong, who had never seen the sea, looked at this clean sea, white sand, and shouted happily, "It turns out that this is the sea, it is actually so big." Although Bulma has never been happy to come home from the turtle, the moment she saw the sea, the original unhappiness disappeared. She rolled up her trouser leg and stepped happily in the sea. The turtle slowly crawled into the ocean, turned back to the ordinary and said, "Mr. Ping Fan, Mr. Gaku, Miss Bulma, you are waiting for me here for a while, I will go back and call my master to come and thank you." After that, the turtle rode into the sea and swam quickly towards the deep sea. At first, Bulma and Gaku were still having fun. But when the sun rose and the temperature rose, both of them ran under the coconut trees to cool off. Bulma complained, "Why haven't you come over yet, it's so slow." Ordinary jokingly said, "How about we go?" Bulma was suddenly unhappy and shouted, "How is it possible, wouldn't it be in vain for us to leave now? No, I must wait until that turtle immortal is rewarded." Chapter 14. In this way, after the three of them waited for about an hour, a small black dot finally appeared on the sea in the distance. Gaku had the best eyesight and said loudly, "Ordinary, Bulma, look at it, an old grandfather has appeared over there." Where? Bulma heard Gaku say that someone had appeared, and immediately stood up and looked into the depths of the sea, and asked loudly. When she found that she could only see a black spot, Bulma couldn't help but say to Gaku, "What kind of eyes are you, you can see from so far?" Sure enough, Gaku was right, and not long after, the turtle appeared on the surface of the sea carrying a bald and white-bearded old man wearing tortoise shell and covered in bony. The turtle swam quickly to the shore. The turtle immortal jumped down from the turtle, came to the beach, saw 3 people in front of him, and couldn't help but ask his turtle, "Who are these 3 people who saved you?" Although Bulma kept saying not to send turtles and to give them to the bear monster, the turtle understood that this was all because Bulma was an ordinary person, so it did not say that Bulma was not his lifesaver. The turtle stretched out its fins and pointed at Ordinary and said, "This ordinary gentleman promised to send me back to the beach." Then he pointed to Bulma and said, "This Miss Bulma gave me a bucket of salt water to drink to prevent me from dying of thirst." Finally, he pointed at Gaku and said, "This Mr. Gaku, he defeated a bear monster to prevent me from being eaten." "Ah, so many people have saved you, it seems that I need to think about what gifts to give them," the turtle immortal said to himself. At this time, Bulma saw at a glance the dragon ball that the turtle immortal hung around his neck, because the dragon ball was shining because the 3 dragon balls they collected were close at this time. Bulma pulled the sleeves of the Ordinary and said, "Hey, Ordinary, look at the neck of that turtle immortal, there is a 3-planet hanging on it." Ordinary naturally saw the dragon ball on the turtle immortal's neck at a glance, and whispered to Bulma, "Wait, first see what gift the turtle immortal is going to give us, and then we will consider whether we can exchange the dragon ball." At this time, the turtle immortal finally thought of what gift to give to ordinary people, and the turtle immortal raised his crutch and shouted loudly, "Come here, immortal bird." But it's embarrassing, more than 10 seconds have passed, except for a few seabirds in the distance, there is no sign that the undead birds will come, and finally a seabird pulled a piece of bird poop and fell on the brain door of the turtle fairy. The turtle immortal was furious and must burn and eat this insulting seabird, but fortunately the turtle stopped him, saying that everyone was still waiting for him. Taking out his handkerchief to wipe his brain clean, the turtle immortal couldn't help but ask, "Where did this immortal bird run away?" The turtle originally didn't want to say it, but seeing that the turtle immortal still couldn't forget about it, he whispered a reminder, "Turtle immortal, have you forgotten, the last time the immortal bird was poisoned by food, it has been hanged." Although the voice was small, several people around could hear it clearly. The turtle fairy embarrassingly took out the handkerchief that had just wiped the bird poop and wiped the sweat on his face. And the bird feces were all pasted on his face, and the angry turtle fairy threw away the handkerchief and washed his face with seawater. When it was cleaned up, the turtle immortal said again, "I thought that giving that bird an immortal bird name, it can live forever, but it doesn't matter, life is impermanent, and no one knows what will happen to them in the future. In that case, then I'll give you a better gift." Still the same posture, similar words, the turtle immortal shouted, "Du Yun." There was no movement in the air for another few seconds, and at this time, cold sweat appeared on the forehead of the turtle immortal again, and just when he thought that he was going to fail again this time, a pale yellow cloud flew from the sky in the distance, and soon flew in front of the turtle immortal. Bulma and little Gaku both looked at this somersault cloud with some surprise, not knowing what this baby did. The turtle immortal proudly explained to everyone, "This is a gift from the cat immortal back then, and I have been with me for hundreds of years, and I will give it to you this time." Gaku looked at the yellow cloud and couldn't help but ask, "But how should I eat this?" The turtle immortal immediately said, "This is not for food, it is for riding, it can take you freely in the sky, and only people with simple hearts and no distractions can ride on this somersault cloud." "Forget it, I'll show you it." The turtle immortals felt that it was not enough to show the power of this somersault cloud, so they decided to go up and show the 3 of them themselves. After speaking, the turtle immortal walked to the side of the somersault cloud, jumped on the tendon cloud, and the result surprised everyone. The turtle immortal did not jump on the somersault cloud, and directly crossed from the somersault cloud. The turtle hurriedly went over and helped his master up, and asked with concern, "Turtle immortal, are you okay? Strange, what's going on, why can't I sit up? The turtle immortals wondered why this was the case. At this time, little Gaku was already jumping next to him and said, otherwise, I'll try it. After saying that, Gaku jumped directly on the somersault cloud, and did not fall from the somersault cloud like the turtle immortals. He sat up, turtle immortal. The turtle shouted to the turtle immortal in surprise. The turtle immortal was surprised. He did not expect that this child could actually ride on the somersault cloud. It seems that he is indeed related to the somersault cloud. The turtle immortal stood up again and said, it seems that this gift is the right gift, and you are indeed related to this Duyun. You can fly in a somersault. The turtle immortal suggested to Gaku. So little Gaku flew in the sky with a somersault cloud, galloping above the sea, and Bulma was envious of him. Bulma turned to the turtle immortal and asked, can I also ask for a somersault cloud like this? The turtle immortal shook his head and said, I only have one, Miss Bulma, you better choose a new gift. Bulma glanced enviously at the somersault cloud carrying Gaku flying above the sky, and said, well, what gift do you say you are going to give us? The turtle immortal was a little hesitant, although he was an immortal, but to be honest, there were not many good things in his hand, and Duyun was already a face-saving gift that he could take out. At this time, Pingfan pushed Bulma. Pointed to the dragon ball around the neck of the turtle immortal. Bulma thought, so he said, since you can't think of any gift to give me, I see you will give me the dragon ball hanging around your neck. Chapter 15. Dragon Ball. The turtle immortal picked up the 3 planets around his neck and couldn't help but say with some hesitation, but this bead seems to be very precious. Unless. As he spoke, the turtle fairy looked at Bulma's plump parts and continued, unless, you can let me touch it. While speaking, he made lewd gestures while slowly approaching Bulma. Hearing the turtle immortal say such colorful words, Bulma's face suddenly changed, and she directly raised her arm and slapped it on the turtle immortal's cheek. The turtle immortal was not guarded at all, so he was stumbled, and a red handprint suddenly appeared on his face, and Bulma's hand was swollen because he was too hard, and she exhaled in pain. The turtle immortal rubbed his ached cheeks and said, just kidding, don't you want to be so excited? Seeing that the little girl's hand was indeed swollen because of herself, the turtle fairy took off the dragon ball around her neck, handed it to Bulma and said, okay, this dragon ball will be given to you. Bulma's originally angry face became happy again, and took the 3 planets and said to Pingfan, we have obtained another dragon ball, now we have collected 4 dragon balls, as long as we collect the remaining 3 dragon balls, we can summon the divine dragon to make a wish. I am so happy. Ordinary, you are not happy? Pingfan nodded, and also said happily, of course I am very happy. The turtle immortal walked in front of Ordinary at this time and said to Ordinary Fan, Mr. Pingfan, your 2 friends have gifts, what gift do you want? The premise is that I need to say okay first, I don't have any more Duyun and Dragon Ball. Ping Fan hurriedly gave a salute, and then said, Turtle Immortal, I don't want any gifts. Oh, don't want a gift, so what do you want? When he said this, although the Turtle Immortal still had a faint smile, his tone was no longer as peaceful as before. The Turtle Immortal is also a person who has lived for hundreds of years. There is a way that people are old and refined. What kind of things he has not experienced, he knows very well. If he wants a gift, it is actually fine, but now this young man does not want a gift, then the things he opened his mouth are definitely not so good to agree. For the idea of the Turtle Immortal, Ordinary is very clear, but Ordinary must do this, because even if he later obtains the Scion body through the Divine Dragon, he needs to learn the martial arts of the Dragon Ball world, and no matter which world, martial arts knowledge is not something that can be easily obtained, and it is often controlled by various sect forces. As the first person on Earth in the Dragon Ball world, the Turtle Immortal is definitely too suitable as his own martial arts enlightenment teacher. It can be said that it is precisely because the Turtle Immortals laid the foundation for Sun Wukong that the lower-level warrior Sun Wukong has the potential to become the first in the universe in the future. Ping Fan bowed down and said in a very sincere tone, "Turtle Immortal, I think that after completing the adventure with Bulma and Wukong this time, I hope that I can worship you as a teacher and officially practice martial arts. Please." After speaking, Ping Fan bowed down again. "Worship me as a teacher." The Turtle Immortals also thought that ordinary people would make some kind of unreasonable demands on themselves. But they did not expect that they actually wanted to worship themselves as a teacher. Looking at the young man with a sincere face in front of him, the Turtle Immortal was a little hesitant and said, "The matter of accepting apprentices is extremely important. I don't know anything about you. You want to talk about why you practice martial arts, right? Don't try to lie in front of me, no lie can escape my eyes," the Turtle Immortal said. Ping Fan immediately spoke, "Of course, the reason why I practice martial arts is actually very simple, that is, to live." When he said this, Ping's tone was slightly excited, because this was really his truest thought. Live. The Turtle Immortal was a little unsure why Ordinary had such an idea. He originally thought that Ordinary would say things like becoming the number one in the world and what the strongest on the earth, but he didn't expect to just live. The Turtle Immortal has just seen the Ordinary and found that he has a little martial arts foundation, although it is not powerful, but as long as he does not offend the strong, there is actually no problem in living well. But now he wants to worship me as a teacher, but only to live, which arouses the curiosity of the Turtle Immortals. The Turtle Immortal asked, "Why are you such a reason? If you are just trying to survive, I can give you a little of my immortal water, so that as long as you are not killed, you can live forever." Ping Fan shook his head and said, "This way may not be able to live in the future." "Why?" The Turtle Immortals are getting weirder and weirder now. Ping Fan continued, "Because the Earth is just a small planet in the universe. There are so many planets in the universe, not only the Earth has life, but other planets also have life, and some planets are naturally powerful and like to invade and occupy other planets. Sooner or later, the Earth will be discovered by aliens, and without super martial arts ability, there is no way to survive and protect the Earth." Alien invasion. The Turtle Immortal's face couldn't help but become serious. He knew that there was a god on the Earth, and he also knew from the Cat Immortal that the current god was actually an alien. However, he really did not consider the possibility of aliens invading the Earth before, not without this possibility, or he did not think of it at all. Now after such a reminder from Ordinary, the Turtle Immortals suddenly felt that this possibility was very large. The Turtle Immortal looked up at Ping Fan, and then said, "I really want to take you as an apprentice, but you should be very clear that what determines the upper limit of your martial arts is not your degree of effort, but your physique. Your physique is not good, no matter how hard you try, the room for progress is also very small. It's a pity, I just took a look at your physical fitness, and I found that you are actually not suitable for martial arts practice. I think you should change industries." Ordinary heard that the Turtle Immortal was willing to accept himself as an apprentice, provided that his physique would change, so he immediately said with joy, "Master, don't worry, the problem of physique is being solved now, and when the time comes, you can directly accept me as an apprentice." "Can you solve the physique?" The Turtle Immortal was a little puzzled at first, and suddenly thought of what Bulma said just now about collecting the Dragon Balls and summoning the Divine Dragon to make a wish. Suddenly realized, and said, "It turns out that the way for you to solve your physical constitution is to summon the Divine Dragon to make a wish." Ping Fan smiled and did not speak, acquiescing to the Turtle Immortal's statement. Seeing that Ordinary acquiescence, the Turtle Immortal naturally could not break his promise, so he said, "Well, as long as you make a wish to the Divine Dragon to solve your physical problem, I can accept you as an apprentice. I only hope that after you achieve martial arts in the future, you can remember your wish today." Ordinary was full of joy at first, and when he heard the last instructions of the Turtle Immortal, Ordinary promised very seriously, "Yes, master, I will definitely not forget." Chapter 16. After agreeing to the mundane request, the turtle fairy said goodbye to Bulma and Gaku and rode his turtle back into the deep sea. Bulma is a little strange. Why did the turtle immortal leave like this and did not give Ordinary gifts? Ordinary said, "Give me a gift, a promise." "Promise? What promise?" Bulma asked curiously. Ping Fan replied, "Take me as an apprentice, just after we summoned the divine dragon to make a wish." "What, you have to worship that old man as a teacher?" Bulma was very excited, and continued, "Ordinary, I want to warn you, it's okay to worship a teacher, but you can't learn the bad habits of that old man in color, otherwise we won't even be friends between us." Looking at such an excited Bulma, Ping Fan was very embarrassed, and said, "Bulma, the turtle immortal is just because he has lived for too long, so he is a bit of a game in the world, it's all a joke, don't take it too seriously." "Humph, I don't care what happens to him, I just hope you don't become bad." After Bulma finished speaking, she took out the car capsule and released a car. Seeing that Bulma was a little angry, Ordinary did not care too much, because he knew that the fate of everyone would be linked in the future. "Gaku, we should go!" Ping Fan shouted loudly to Gaku, who was still playing somersault clouds in the distance. Hearing the Ordinary voice, Gaku directly drove down in a somersault cloud. Gaku said, "It's okay, you drive the car forward, and I'll follow you in a somersault cloud." Bulma was unhappy to see Gaku driving the somersault cloud flying in the air before, plus he was just angry by the Ordinary, so he pulled Wukong off the somersault cloud and said, "No, everyone has to go together, no one is allowed to do special, we drive the car, and you are not allowed to sit on the somersault cloud." After saying that, Bulma opened the door and pushed Gaku in. Gaku somehow became a prop for Bulma's anger, so he had to obediently sit in the car. Ping Fan followed and got into the driver's seat, started the car, and under the command of Bulma, drove towards the position of the fifth Dragon Ball. The next morning, 3 people drove the car to the location of the fifth Dragon Ball. It's a small town, but strangely there is no one in the town, and all the doors and windows of the houses are closed. Bulma said, "Why is there no one, where did everyone run?" Gaku walked to a door at this time, then moved his ears, and immediately heard a voice behind the door. Before Ping Fan and Bulma could stop it, Gaku shouted happily, "Haha, caught you!" After that, Gaku smashed the door with a punch and walked in. But it was not someone who greeted Gaku first, but an axe, and the sharp axe smashed directly on Goku's head. Suddenly, the axe shattered, and a very large lump appeared on Goku's head. Seeing that his axe was actually shattered, and the child's head in front of him was only painful, everyone in the room immediately knelt in front of Gaku and shouted, "Lord Oolong, we don't dare anymore, please let us go." This scene directly stunned Bulma and Gaku, and only Ordinary said to everyone very calmly, "Hello everyone, we are good people, we have just passed through your town, and we are not the Oolong Lord you said, you have recognized the wrong person." Seeing 2 more people appear, the people in the town also believe that they are not Oolongs, because although Oolongs can be ever-changing, they have always acted alone and have no accomplices, so these 3 people must not be Oolongs. Bulma took a cold towel to cover Goku's lump, and then asked the villagers, "Tell us, what's going on with that Oolong?" At this time, a villager stood up and explained, "Oolong is a very powerful monster in the mountains, and no one knows what it looks like, every appearance is a new face, but it is very terrifying." Ordinary asked, "So what bad thing did it do to make everyone so afraid of it?" The villager continued, "To talk about bad things, in addition to extorting some money from us, the biggest bad thing is to forcibly marry brides, and those brides who were married back by it still do not know whether they are alive or eaten by Oolong. Today is the day of Oolong's bride, so we all hid in our house until this little gentleman attacked our gate, we thought it was Oolong, and this attacked him." At this time, Goku's lump has disappeared, and he has also regained his spirits, and it is the first time that Goku has seen so many people. In addition to Ordinary and Bulma, the third person to see is the Turtle Immortal. At this time, he looked at this person curiously, and looked at the person curiously. Everyone thought that he was a child, so they all looked at him with a smile. At this time, Goku walked in front of an old grandmother, looked carefully, and suddenly reached out to touch people's private parts, but was quickly stopped by the Ordinary who had already prepared. Bulma, who was chatting with everyone, was also shocked, quickly apologized to everyone, and then held Goku's ear and said, "What you just did was really rude." Goku replied with an innocent look, "I just wanted to confirm whether she is a girl, and she told me before that girls do not have." Bulma's face suddenly turned red, and then she glared at Ping Mand, "How do you teach bad children indiscriminately?" Ordinary and speechless, he is really wronged. He just wants to teach Wukong common sense, to prevent him from saying the wrong thing again. Where would he think that he can distinguish between men and women by touching it? Bulma did not continue to dwell on this topic, which became more and more unclear, so Bulma took out a Dragon Ball and asked the villagers in the house, "I don't know, have you ever seen this bead?" Watching Bulma take out the Dragon Ball, the grandmother who had just been almost insulted by little Goku took a Dragon Ball and walked over and said, "Is it this bead?" At this time, the Dragon Ball in the grandmother's hand began to shine because of the resonance. It was obvious that this Dragon Ball was real. Bulma happily counted the stars in the Dragon Ball. It was the 6-star Dragon Ball. When the grandmother saw Bulma's expression, she knew that the glass bead in her hand was what Bulma was looking for. So the grandmother squeezed out the wrinkles on her face and said with a smile, "It's not impossible to give you this bead, but this is a treasure passed down from generation to generation in our family." Chapter 17. Bulma naturally understood the meaning of this grandmother's words, and the biggest crisis for them now was the monster called Oolong, so Bulma said, "In this way, you give us the Dragon Balls, and we will help you destroy the monster of Oolong. How? Deal?" After speaking, the grandmother did not wait for Bulma to repent, and directly stuffed the Dragon Ball into Bulma's hands. Bulma was also unimpressed, because both sides felt that they had taken advantage. Bulma asked, "Which young lady will Oolong marry later?" Everyone then pushed out a very beautiful little girl and said, "That's her, the jewel of our town." Bulma couldn't help but pout, and secretly said in her heart, "What kind of vision does this monster called Oolong have? This kind of little girl who has nothing to grow, what is there to marry? The vision is really bad." But that's exactly the case. Goku's figure just pretends to be a little girl. If it is older, Goku can't pretend to be a girl. Bulma said to Goku, "Goku, you change into this little girl's clothes, pretend to be her, and when that Oolong comes, you will defeat and subdue the other party." Goku didn't care about pretending at first, but when he put on the girl's clothes, he found that the clothes he was wearing were not comfortable at all, and he kept pulling his clothes and wanted to take them off. Bulma immediately gave Pingfan a look, and Pingfan could only obediently walk over and said to Goku, "Goku, you hold on a little longer, and when you subdue the yokai called Oolong, you can take off your clothes. As long as you hold on, I'll make you a big meal in the evening." Hearing Ordinary say this, Goku finally agreed to Ordinary conditions. Time passed by minute, and soon it was 12 o'clock agreed upon by Oolong and the villagers, and a voice shouted loudly, "Oolong is coming." Suddenly, the villagers who had been accompanying Goku outside all quickly hid in their homes, lying on the edge of the windows one by one, peeking at the movements outside. A red-skinned pig-headed monster came to the center of the town with brisk footsteps and saw the bride in the center of the town with her back to her. Oolong leaned over and said happily, "My bride, have been waiting for me for a long time. From today you will be my wife. I am your husband. Let's go, I will take you home." Bulma and Pingfan were hiding in the nearby house at this time. Bulma was lying on the window and saw that Goku had been shaking, and couldn't help asking, "Ordinary, is Goku afraid?" why is it shaking so much? Ping. Fan shook his head and said, it's impossible, Gaku is not a person who will be afraid, it may be because of the urgency of urine, so he can't hold it back. Urgency. Bulma wasn't very convinced. At this time, the pig-headed monster that Oolong transformed into also found the little girl who was trembling in front of him, and couldn't help but say, "Ah, yes, this look scares you, look at me and change my face." Only heard the sound of touch, the original red-skinned pig-headed monster, directly became a British gentleman, holding a gentleman's hat in his hand, holding a civilized stick in his hand, a standard model body of 1 meter 8, plus a word beard on his lips. Really, how handsome he is, how handsome he is. This look was so much in line with Bulma's appetite, her eyes directly turned into 2 pink peach hearts. Bulma said to the ordinary, "This Oolong. Is it still quite handsome, is it the type I like?" Ping Fan poured cold water on the side at this time and said, "How do you know that this is the original face of the Oolong? Maybe it has changed, maybe its actual face is actually a short pig-headed monster." "How is that possible?" Bulma retorted directly, but she couldn't say a reason for refuting, just wishful thinking that it was impossible. Besides, outside, Gaku really couldn't hold back, so he ran directly to the bottom of a tree and solved it happily. At this time, Oolong was still closing his eyes to confess, exerting its charm that there was nowhere to place, but when he opened his eyes, he found that there was no trace of the bride in front of him, and when he turned his head, he found that the bride was standing under the tree conveniently. Oolong suddenly felt bad in his heart, but he still walked over to confirm, but when he really saw the indescribable scene in front of him, Oolong suddenly felt like he was struck by lightning, and shouted loudly, You are not the little girl from yesterday." After speaking, his heart immediately rose with anger, and the touch turned into a strong black-haired cow, and the hot air in his nostrils said, "You bastard, you actually dare to bully you Oolong King, I want to teach you a good lesson." Seeing that he had been discovered, Gaku did not pretend any more, directly took off his clothes, pulled out the Ruyi stick behind him, and said excitedly, "Let's fight, I like to compete with people the most." Listening to Goku's so excited tone, Oolong suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Of course he knew how strong he was, in addition to being able to transform, he might not even be able to fight an ordinary child. And this kid in front of him is obviously not an ordinary child, but he is unwilling to let these villagers go. He finally planted a deep fear in the minds of these villagers. If he ran away this time, then it will not be easy to think about pretending to be a ghost here in the future. Oolong glanced at the clock on the pole and found that its transformation time was almost 5 minutes, and immediately it wanted to run out, ready to wait a minute before returning to scare the other party. After calculating in his heart, Oolong shouted loudly to Gaku, "I have something now, I'll come to you later, you wait for me." After saying that, he wanted to run outside, but Ordinary was waiting for this moment, and he was waiting for Oolong's 5-minute transformation time to disappear. Just when Oolong turned into a bison monster, Ordinary was already guarding the exit of the town. The Oolong bison monster turned and fled, just crashed into the Ordinary muzzle, and an ordinary flying kick directly hit the bison monster's brain. The Oolong turned bison monster flew out directly upside down, and in mid-air, it changed back into the body of Oolong because of the time up. A white, chubby, diminutive pig-shaped earthling fell from the air to the ground. Only then did Oolong cover his head and scream, because it was too painful, tears burst out of his eyes. Gaku also ran up and said, "It turns out that you are Oolong, haha, you are really weak." Bulma saw that Oolong's body was not a handsome uncle, and couldn't help sighing and said, "Alas, it turns out that the body is really so ugly, it's not as good as Ordinary." Ping. Fan immediately said dissatisfied, "How can you compare me to a pig, no matter how long I am? I can't be inferior to a pig. In fact, the Ordinary at this time is not so fat, because of the exercise, the original fat body has lost a lot of weight, but unfortunately Bulma has always been with the ordinary, so she did not feel the ordinary change. Chapter 18. At this time, the villagers all gathered around and saw the oolong defeated by ordinary people, and suddenly everyone took the hoe, axe, and firewood knife in their hands and wanted to kill the oolong. Frightened, Oolong screamed again and hid behind Gaku. Pinkfin quickly stopped everyone and said, "Everyone still let him go, in fact, he didn't hurt anyone's life except for extorting a little money, although he was guilty, but not dead." Then a villager shouted, "We can let him go, but he wants to tell us where all the girls he took away are." "Yes, he has to tell us what happened to all those girls." The rest of the villagers were shouting. In order to prevent Oolong from turning into another and escaping, Pinkfin took the rope and tied Oolong's hands, and the other end of the rope was given to Gaku, and everyone escorted Oolong towards his home. In the mountains not far outside the town, there is a relatively large palace on the top of the mountain, which is Oolong's house. When the villagers saw that they had finally arrived at Oolong's home, they immediately rushed inside, shouting their daughter's name. After a while, everyone found their daughter in a room, who had always thought that their daughter would be abused by Oolong, but they did not expect that the scene in front of them surprised them. "I saw my daughter and a few other girls in the room, a little following the TV to do yoga, a few playing mahjong, and some smoking. Most of the girls are pearlescent." All the villagers stood at the door watching their originally simple daughter become like this, not knowing what to say. At this time, the girls saw that Oolong had returned, but when they saw that Oolong was still tied with a rope, they were immediately unhappy, and huffed and asked their parents to untie the rope on Oolong. Some girls told Oolong to hurry up and prepare food for them, and some girls told Oolong that they had seen a beautiful jewelry again and asked Oolong to buy it for themselves. At this time, a villager broke the silence and asked his woman, "Didn't Oolong bully you?" His daughter replied, "Bullying? No bullying, I think it is really very happy to be an Oolong bride." "Yes, can you not be happy? Everything has an Oolong to do. I and my sisters only need to be responsible for enjoyment, which is like before at home. You also need to take care of fields, livestock, help the family work. Compared to now, this kind of life is only in heaven." At this time, Oolong seemed to have finally discovered his grievances, and cried loudly, and Oolong shouted aggrievedly, "I don't know why, the originally pure and kind girls have become luxurious when they come to me. I just want an empathetic, innocent and kind girl. Why is it so difficult?" In the end, no matter how the girls pleaded, they were still brought back by their parents. And Pinkfin and Bulma also got the 5th Dragon Ball, the 6 planets, and this time they took the Oolong with them on the road, because Bulma felt that although the transformation ability of the Oolong was very chicken, it could sometimes become a miracle. After Oolong follows everyone on board, Pinkfin takes out a candy and hands it to Oolong, and Bulma discovers that it is the prank candy that Pinkfin bought in the store before they set off from the western capital. Ordinary smiled back a look to Bulma, "Let Bulma wait to see, there will be a good show later." Bulma checked the Dragon Ball radar and found that the next moment Dragon Ball needed to cross the desert and go to a place in a mountain of flames. Flame Mountain. When Oolong heard that he was going to the Flame Mountain, he immediately shouted loudly, "Do you know whose territory the Flame Mountain is?" and actually wants to go to his territory to ask for Dragon Balls. Looking at the Oolong with a terrified expression, Bulma couldn't help but ask curiously, "Is the Flame Mountain scary?" Oolong said with a look of horror, "At this time, legend has it that there lived a man named the Bull Demon King in the Flame Mountain, who stole a lot of treasures and placed them in his castle. Every day, many people peep into the treasures of the Bull Demon King, but they all die at the hands of the Bull Demon King, and none of them survive. Now you tell me that we are going to the Bull Demon King to get the Dragon Balls. Do you think this is possible? I haven't lived enough. I want to go to you. I won't go." After saying that, Oolong instantly turned into a fish and jumped from the boat into the lake. "Ah!" He ran. Gaku exclaimed, taking off his clothes as he said, and jumped into the lake, trying to capture the Oolong. However, Oolong is now a small fish, looking for a water grass to hide. Gaku can't find him at all. After searching for a few minutes, Gaku finds that he can't find any trace of Oolong, and Gaku has to swim up from the water again. Gaku said, "I can't find him, it seems that this time I let him run." Goku's words on the boat reached the ears of Oolong, who was hiding in the water grass, and he couldn't help but laugh proudly. At this time, Bulma finally understood the reason why Pinkfin had just given Oolong prank candy, and couldn't help but smile and looked at Pinkfin and asked, "Ordinary, are you shouting, or I shouting?" Pinkfan stretched out his hand and said, "You please." Hearing the ordinary words, she couldn't help but smile and began to shout, "Pippi, Pippi." Suddenly, with Bulma's voice into the water, into the ears of Oolong, suddenly Oolong only felt that his stomach was turning over the river. He immediately rushed out of the water, and then changed back to the body, rushed into the bushes, a convenient release. A dozen seconds later, he came out of the bushes again. Oolong looked at the man and woman in front of him, and only felt that he was really unlucky, and actually met these two dog men and women. Gaku saw the performance of the Oolong, and was immediately amused, and also learned the appearance of Bulma, shouting, "Pippi, Pippi." The Oolong, who had just solved the problem, his stomach turned over the river again, and he rushed into the trees again, and when he solved it, he laughed when he saw Gaku. When Oolong came out of the bushes again, seeing that Ordinary was also about to shout, he immediately stopped. Don't shout, I'm not running anymore, you must not shout again." Seeing that Oolong admitted defeat, Ping Fan said at this time, "I hope you keep your promise later, don't be careful, otherwise, don't blame us." Oolong nodded again and said, "Definitely, definitely." But in his heart, he secretly thought that he must take revenge in the future, and he couldn't help but secretly think about how he could take revenge on these three people who tortured him. Chapter 19. If you want to go to the Flame Mountain, you need to pass through the vast desert first. But fortunately, for ordinary people who have many capsules, a lot of advanced transportation and supplies, crossing the desert is not a difficult thing. And the most frightening disorientation in the desert, ordinary they don't need to worry, with the guidance of the Dragon Ball radar, they don't need to worry about the wrong direction. Ordinary driving the car, Bulma with Gaku, and Oolong are singing happily in the car, laughing all the way, completely without the embarrassment in the plot of the previous life. On the mountain in the distance of the desert, a man was holding a telescope and looking at the entrance of the desert road. It was Puer, Yamcha's servant, and after a while, he saw a car coming from the outside towards the desert. Puer immediately flew down from the mouth of the cave and shouted to Yamcha, "Young Master Yamcha, here is business, and a car is just driving towards us." Yamcha took the water in the teacup and drank it, took off the combat knife hanging on the wall, and said, "Puer, go, we will go to meet this group of people. If you know each other, let them go, if you don't know each other, you will be blamed." After that, Yamcha drove his motorcycle and rushed to intercept in front of their car. Ordinary was driving the car towards the Flame Mountain, and after entering the desert, the weather became gradually hotter, and the three people who were originally very active were now gradually becoming a little weaker. Even though there was air conditioning blowing air conditioning in the car, the three began to doze off in their seats. Suddenly a motorcycle stopped in front of Pingfan's car, and Ping Fang was so startled that he could only immediately press the brakes. There was a shrill sound of tires rubbing the ground, and the car finally stopped not far in front of the motorcycle, and Gaku and Oolong in the back seat directly hit the front seat because they were not wearing seat belts, and let out a cry of pain. Bulma, who was woken up, originally wanted to be angry, but when she saw the handsome man on the motorcycle in front, the anger in her heart disappeared directly, but was full of joy. Ordinary also looked at this Yamcha who will intersect with himself in the future. Unlike the comics, the Yamcha he saw was much more handsome than in the comics. And probably because he has been begging for a living in the desert, Yamacha's body is full of a bohemian wildness, which deeply attracts the attention of others, especially women. In fact, Xiao Wukong also has this kind of wildness, but his age is still too young, plus he is not experienced in the world, and his characteristics are still mainly naive. Yamacha did not notice Bulma in the car. He saw the ordinariness of stepping down from the driver's seat at first glance, although this person did not look as good as himself, but the power exuding from his body could be seen to be a master. Yamacha said in a loud voice, "I think you should understand the current situation, leave all your universal capsules, I can let you go, otherwise, it depends on whether my knife agrees or not." Ordinary asked flatly, "I think you should also be a martial arts practitioner, don't you know that the character of a martial artist should be to eliminate violence and good health, rather than bullying the weak?" Yamacha threw the knife and shouted loudly, "Don't talk more nonsense, I'm not here to argue with you, since you are unwilling to hand over the capsule in your hand, then don't blame my knife for not agreeing." After speaking, Yamacha pulled the knife out of its scabbard, and slashed towards Ordinary in the air. Ordinary One dodged and raised his leg to fight back, and the two immediately began to fight back and forth, but relatively speaking, Yamacha, who had a knife, still had the upper hand. The sound of the two people exchanging hands woke up Bulma, who was intoxicated by Yamuchajan's beautiful face, and when she saw the two people fighting, she immediately pushed open the door and walked down. Bulma shouted, "Stop!" The sweet voice immediately attracted Yamacha's attention. He immediately turned his head to look, and when he saw Bulma's sweet figure, Yamacha suddenly felt like a lightning strike, and his originally white face turned extremely red. The body also became stiff, as if someone had set a cave path, and fell straight to the ground. Just now Gaku also got out of the car, and was about to help the Ordinary, but found that the enemy suddenly fell down like this, frightened him, and thought that it was done by the Ordinary. Gaku looked at the Ordinary with a look of horror, only felt that the Ordinary means were unpredictable. Ordinary looked like Gaku, and then said, "This guy is afraid of girls, so he is scared when he sees Bulma." Gaku and the oolong who followed down were suddenly speechless. On the other side, Yamacha's servant Puer was of course the weakness of his master, and when he saw that Yamacha couldn't move and fell down, he immediately shouted loudly, "Young Master Yamacha!" and flew over to take Yamacha away. On the other side, Bulma was shocked when she saw this handsome man suddenly fall like this, and thought that he was sick, so she wanted to go over and offer her courtesy. But Bulma's approach made Yamacha retreat in fright, shouting, "Don't come over!" This word made Bulma angry, pointing to herself and asking the Ordinary, "Am I ugly, scary?" Ping! Fan immediately shook his head and praised, "Of course not, you are the cutest, most beautiful and most mature girl I know." Hearing the Ordinary words, Bulma was very satisfied and seemed not so angry, but she still asked, "Then why does he treat me so much, be so afraid of me?" Ping! Fan looked at Yamacha, who was being dragged onto the motorcycle by Puer, and said, "Maybe he is naturally afraid of girls, the more beautiful he is, the more afraid he is." Bulma listened to the Ordinary words, was stunned, and then said, "Is there this disease in this world?" Ordinary said, "The world is so big, there is no wonder. That's really a pity, so handsome, you can't touch a girl." Bulma said with great regret. Yamacha had eased up at this time. He started the motorcycle, and then said to the Ordinary people, "Humph, I won't just let you go, you wait for me." After that, Yamacha fled the place quickly on his motorcycle. They ignored the Ordinary and drove the car on. The desert was so big that they couldn't leave it after a day's drive. Finding a flat place at random, Bulma took out a capsule of a house and conjured a domed house, and everyone was ready to rest in the desert for the night. Chapter 20. At night, Yamacha, who was unwilling to fail, secretly ran to the vicinity of the Ordinary man's domed house, wanting to sneak up on them again and steal the universal capsule, but he didn't expect to hear a secret that made him extremely moved. He was now ambushed under the window of the house, which was the living room. They had just finished lunch and were watching TV on the couch, while Bulma was soaking in the bathroom. Oolong also took the opportunity to ask, "What is the use of that Dragon Ball that you want to collect?" Ping! Fan replied, "Dragon Ball, this is a very powerful thing, there are 7 in total, after collecting, you can summon the Divine Dragon and fulfill any of your wishes, and legend has it that the King of the Earth now became the king by making a wish to the Divine Dragon." After hearing this, Oolong was immediately moved, and he asked, "So what wish do you want to make when collecting Dragon Balls?" Goku shook his head and said, "I don't have any wishes to make, I'm just going to take risks and compete with powerful martial artists." Listening to Goku's words, Oolong suddenly felt relieved. He also wanted to make this wish to Shenlong, so he needed to inquire about what other people's wishes were, and then he needed to find some way to snatch the opportunity to make a wish. Oolong continued to look at Ordinary and asked, "Ordinary, what about you, what are you going to wish for?" Ordinary. People would not understand Oolong's thoughts, but he didn't care, he already had a plan in his mind about how he would take the Dragon Balls from Pilaf. Ping Fan said, "My wish is very simple, that is, to ask Shenlong to turn my physical quality into the most suitable for martial arts practice." Oolong immediately gave a thumbs up and said, "Great wish." But in private, he was extremely disdainful in his heart, and secretly thought to himself, "What kind of wishes, it's really boring, if it were me, I would definitely make a wish for a bunch of girls to pass through." At this time, Goku asked, "So Oolong, do you have any wishes that you want to fulfill?" Oolong naturally couldn't say his dirty wishes in front of everyone, but said with a smile, "No, I don't have any wishes to fulfill." Yamcha outside heard the matter of Shenlong's wish, and his eyes immediately lit up, and Puer next to him also whispered, "Young Master Yamcha, Shenlong makes a wish, we only need to make a wish to Shenlong to give us a lot of wealth at that time, we don't need to rob in the desert." Yes, Puer's most desired wish is that Yamcha will stop robbing in the desert, and the school he attends tells them that robbery is not a good thing. However, Yamcha said, "No, I want to make a wish to Shenlong, so that I am no longer afraid of girls, and then I will no longer have to stay in this desert, so that we can go to the city to enjoy life, and I can also find a lovely girl to marry." At this time, Yamcha suddenly thought of the Bulma he saw during the day, and couldn't help but think in his heart, it would be better if this girl was the girl she saw during the day. 4. Yamcha's wish. Puer is very supportive, in his opinion, no matter what wish, as long as Yamcha no longer becomes a desert bandit. After thinking a little, Yamcha said to Puer, "Puer, let's retreat first, and then we will steal the Dragon Balls in the evening, you will adapt to the situation and become one of them, just don't wear help." "Yes, young Master Yamcha." Puer happily agreed. The two people retreated first, staying in the car until midnight, and then the two re-arrived next to the capsule house where they were. But at this time, Kome and Chuya happened to drive the robot here, ready to install explosives and snatch the Dragon Ball. As a result, the two groups of people met unexpectedly, and both sides knew each other's purpose as soon as they saw this situation. Yamcha was the first to strike, and with one punch he attacked Xiaowu's robot. Not to be outdone, Xiaowu also controlled the robot to attack Yamcha. The two sides fought outside their capsule house. The sound of fierce fighting soon woke up the ordinary people in the room, and the lights in the room that had been extinguished were turned back on. Xiaowu and Yamcha also discovered this situation, so after another tentative attack, they each retreated. Ping Fan opened the door and looked outside, and found that there was no movement, as if there had been no battle outside just now. Bulma yawned and asked Ordinary, "Ordinary, what's wrong outside?" Ping Fan said, "It's nothing, I guess some animal is fighting outside our house, and then I saw that our lights were on, so I retreated." "Well, in that case, then I will go back to my room to sleep. Lack of sleep is very affecting my appearance." After saying that, Bulma took the lead and went back to the house. In the second half of the night, Ordinary increased their vigilance, but fortunately, those who were worried about the Dragon Ball did not attack them again. The next day, Ping Fan drove the car and led everyone to continue driving towards the Flame Mountain. Seeing that they were about to leave their territory, Yamcha was unwilling to let them go. He stood on the hillside, and an RPG shot from afar. Ordinary has been vigilant for them to reappear since he got into the car, and he saw each other's RPG shooting at him from a distance. Ordinary shouted, "Everyone be careful!" After that, Ordinary stepped on the accelerator, and then there was a steering drift and left the original position. Boom! An RPG bombarded the ground near the car, although it did not directly attack the car, but the powerful shock wave directly overturned the Ordinary car. Bulma and Oolong passed out directly, and Ping Fan saw that they were not injured, so he ignored them for the time being, and climbed out of the car with Goku. Although Yamcha will become his partner in the future, this does not prevent him from teaching him a good lesson now. Ping Fan knew that his strength might not be as good as Yamcha now, so he said to Goku, "Goku, this robber has been handed over to you, teach me a hard lesson." For Goku, fighting was his favorite thing, and he said happily, "Ordinary, leave it to me." After saying that, Goku quickly rushed towards Yamcha. Yamcha didn't care very much at first. In his opinion, Goku was just a child, and he could easily defeat him. But underestimating the enemy comes at a price, and Yamcha didn't expect Goku's strength to be so high, and he dodged Yamcha's attack with a dodge. Then a punch hit Yamcha in the abdomen. Yamcha's painful eyes bulged out, and his mouth opened wide, but he couldn't make a sound at all. Goku then hit Yamcha in the face with a flying kick, and Yamcha was directly kicked out, and lost a tooth. Chapter 21. Puer, who was watching the battle from the sidelines, saw that his young master Yamcha was defeated, and immediately rushed forward with a heartache and shouted, "Young Master Yamcha!" Yamcha covered his mouth in pain, looked at the little man in front of him who was a little proud because of his victory over himself, and said, "You guys wait, this matter is not over." After saying that, Yamcha quickly fled away into the distance with his follower Banpur. The two turned behind a boulder, and Puer asked worriedly, "Young Master Yamcha, what should we do later?" Yamcha thought for a while and said, "Since I can't beat them, then let's follow them first and look for opportunities. Judging from what happened last night, it's not just them who are looking for Dragon Ball, but also a group of people hiding in the shadows. We just need to wait for them to clash before we can make a profit." After speaking, Yamcha laughed proudly, but unfortunately his teeth were a little leaky. Ping Fan didn't think about killing Yamcha, so he naturally let them leave, and he and Goku returned to the car to wake up Bulma and Oolong. Bulma covered her hit head and only felt a little pain, and couldn't help asking, "What's wrong? What just happened?" Ordinary simply said what had just happened, and Bulma did not blame Yamcha for firing RPGs at her, but blamed Ordinary for not waking her up, causing her to miss the opportunity to meet her desert prince. Ordinary and speechless, he found that whether it was the real world before or the Dragon Ball world, girls were quite double standard. After checking the car, he found that the car was completely undriven, so Ping Fan took out a capsule car again and led everyone to the Flame Mountain. However, they did not notice that not far from them, Yamcha also drove the car behind them. Ordinary soon came to the vicinity of the Flame Mountain, and in the distance, he found a high mountain surrounded by a roaring flame. The real name is true to the Flame Mountain. The roaring flame makes ordinary people sweat profusely, and after a while, the clothes on their bodies are soaked with sweat and are being dried. Bulma took out the Dragon Ball radar, expecting that the Dragon Ball was not in the Flame Mountain, but when she opened it, she was disappointed, and the Dragon Ball was indeed in the Flame Mountain. Bulma asked Pingfan, "What should we do, or do we ask Goku to drive the cloud in and take a look?" Ping Fan shook his head and said, "There is no need, the Dragon Ball must be in the castle of the Bull Demon King. Even if Goku can fly up with a somersault cloud, he will not be able to enter, but will be burned by the flames. If we want to get the Dragon Balls, I think we have to extinguish the fire on the Flame Mountain. Just as Ping Fan and Bulma were discussing how to extinguish the fire on the Flame Mountain, the Oolong on the side said nervously, "Or let's go, how do I think the Bull Demon King is staring at us nearby?" Bulma said very indifferently, "What are you afraid of? We have Goku and Ping, are we still afraid of his Bull Demon King?" Just as Bulma's voice fell, an axe swirled with a vicious wind and flew towards the heads of ordinary people. Ordinary quickly lowered Bulma's head, while Goku pulled the Oolong and jumped away. With a touch, a huge axe stuck into the back wall of ordinary people, splashing blossoms of broken masonry. Bulma looked at the giant axe stuck in her head, and suddenly her legs were soft with fright, and if she hadn't pulled her down just now, her head would have been smashed by this giant axe. Ordinary looked in the direction where the giant axe flew from, and a huge black shadow slowly came from the smoke. Ordinary eyes saw that the other party's height was more than 4 meters, and his huge body gave people extremely strong pressure, and every step he took brought the vibration of the land, wearing armor and a horn helmet on his head. The Bull Demon King shouted loudly, "A group of thieves who want to steal my treasure, give me death." After that, he rushed forward with a few steps, grabbed his giant axe, and took it off the wall. Ping Fan quickly explained, "Bull Demon King, we are not here to spy on your magic weapon, we just want to find a Dragon Ball." "What Dragon Ball? As long as it is something in my castle, it is mine, no one can peep into it." After speaking, the Bull Demon King swung his axe and slashed towards the ordinary. At this time, Goku jumped out, raised the wishful stick and smashed it towards the Bull Demon King. The Bull Demon King had no choice but to change his moves, raise his giant axe to block Goku's attack, and then recognize the wishful stick in Goku's hand, and his originally angry expression became calmer. The Bull Demon King withdrew the giant axe, pointed at the wishful stick in Goku's hand and asked, "Where did you get this wishful stick?" Goku was stunned and replied honestly, "This was left to me by my grandfather." "Your grandfather? What's your grandfather's name?" The Bull Demon King continued to ask. Goku replied, "My grandfather's name is Son Gohan." "Son Gohan, you are Son Gohan's grandson, this is really great. I am your grandfather's junior brother, I worshipped Wushan teacher with your grandfather to learn martial arts back then, your grandfather is a senior brother, I am a senior brother." The Bull Demon King said happily. "Hey, teacher Wushan, who is that?" Goku didn't know that the turtle immortal was Wushan teacher, so for a while he didn't know who the grandfather's master was that the Bull Demon King said. At this time, Ping Fan reminded next to him, "Wukong, teacher Wushan is a turtle immortal." "Hey!" Goku shouted in surprise, "It turns out that the grandfather of the turtle immortal I saw before is actually my grandfather's teacher. Have you seen teacher Wushan?" The Bull Demon King was even more surprised. Goku nodded and said, "Yes, Grandpa Turtle Immortal also sent me a somersault cloud." "That's really good." The Bull Demon King suddenly shouted happily, and then he grabbed Sun Wukong's shoulder and instructed, "Wukong, can I ask you for a task?" Because of the relationship between the Bull Demon King and his grandfather, Wukong naturally agreed to the Bull Demon King's request without hesitation, and asked seriously with a small face, "Uncle Bull Demon King, you say, what do you want me to do?" "They." Bull Demon King then looked up at the flaming Flame Mountain and said, "Originally, this place was not called the Flame Mountain, but suddenly one day, a roaring flame appeared under the mountain, which not only surrounded the entire mountain, but also surrounded my castle, so that I could not return home. But Mr. Wushan has a banana fan there, 1 to blow the wind, 2 to put out the fire, and 3 to rain, as long as there is a banana fan. I can extinguish the fire on the Flame Mountain and return to my castle, and of course you can get the Dragon Balls you want." Chapter 22. Listening to the words of the Bull Demon King, everyone couldn't help but sigh that the turtle immortal was worthy of being a turtle immortal, and there was such a powerful magic weapon in his hand. Gaku immediately agreed, and he immediately summoned the clouds. Just when Wukong jumped on the somersault cloud and was about to set off to find the turtle immortal, the Bull Demon King suddenly seemed to think of something, and immediately stopped Sun Wukong, and then took out a photo and said to Sun Wukong, "Wukong, I sent my daughter Kiki to find teacher Wushan before, after you see her on the road, help me take her and take her to find teacher Wushan together." Gaku nodded and agreed, saying goodbye to the ordinary them, and Gaku drove the cloud in the direction he had come from. Since the Bull Demon King and Gaku have such a relationship, they naturally won't fight the Bull Demon King again, and the two sides sat on the ground like this, chatting while waiting for Gaku to return. Time didn't pass long, and around the end of the evening, Gaku flew back with a sweet-looking but strangely dressed little girl, followed by the turtle immortal who was driving the flame turtle. When the turtle immortal landed, the Bull Demon King walked over with a few big strides, fell to the ground at once, and shouted loudly, "Teacher Wushan!" As a result, the turtle immortal was directly shocked to the ground by the Bull Demon King because of the turtle stunning. After recovering, the Bull Demon King knelt down and said to the turtle immortal, "The disciple is ashamed, he actually needs the teacher to personally take action." The turtle immortal said, very dissatisfied, "The Bull Demon King heard that you killed a lot of people in order to snatch the treasure." The Bull Demon King was suddenly shocked, and said tremblingly, "Teacher, disciples no longer dare." The turtle immortal did not say much, for the Bull Demon King, he was actually not as good as he was to Sun Wuhan, otherwise he would not have driven the Bull Demon King out together after Sun Wuhan became a teacher. In the hearts of the turtle immortals, Sun Wuhan is his true personal disciple, but it is a pity that his talented disciple died too unworthily. The turtle immortal sighed a little in his heart, and stopped thinking about it. After all, a monster like him who has lived for hundreds of years, what kind of scene has not been seen? So the turtle immortal immediately changed his face and walked to Bulma's side, and then said to Bulma, "Listen to Gaku, the sixth Dragon Ball you are looking for is in the castle surrounded by flames, and now I can help extinguish the flames of the Flame Mountain and help you get the Dragon Ball. But the premise is that you can let me touch it," said the turtle fairy as gesturing. Bulma didn't promise before, how could she agree now? Besides, the purpose of finding Dragon Ball this time was to help the ordinary, why should he sacrifice his hue? So he refused without thinking about it. The turtle immortal was a little unhappy, so he said, "If you don't agree, I won't help put out the fire." The argument between the two alarmed the Bull Demon King and Pingfan them. The Bull Demon King heard his teacher's request, and although he was ashamed in his heart, he still blushed and pleaded with Bulma, asking Bulma to help, as long as Bulma is willing to help, after the flames are extinguished. The treasure in his castle can be selected by Bulma. At this time, Ordinary pulled Bulma aside. Just when Bulma thought that Ordinary was ready to persuade herself to sacrifice her hue, she was very disappointed in her heart, although Ordinary is not the type she likes, but she really regards Ordinary as her friend. Even he risked his life to sacrifice a year of time that Dragon Ball could not make a wish for, and he had to accompany Ordinary to find Dragon Ball, just to fulfill Ordinary wishes. Bulma decided that if Ordinary really persuaded herself, she would definitely break her friendship. Of course, Ordinary did not know that Bulma had turned so many thoughts in her heart, and he said, "Have you forgotten, we have a transformed pig?" Saying that, Ping Fan pointed to the oolong playing next to him, and continued, "You can completely promise to come down, and finally let the oolong become you, just fulfill the promise." When Bulma heard the Ordinary suggestion, she immediately became happy and praised, "Ordinary, if there is yours, I will say, when I bring this pig's head, sooner or later it will be useful, I am really too prescient." After the two finished discussing, they walked out from the corner, and both the Turtle Immortal and the Bull Demon King looked at Bulma expectantly. Bulma pretended to have a difficult, very reluctant expression before agreeing, and said, "Okay, I agreed to your request, you should quickly extinguish the fire." Hearing that Bulma agreed to his request, the turtle immortal immediately jumped up happily, and then first took off the tortoise shell he was carrying and climbed to a wall with great effort. The turtle immortal slowly unbuttoned his clothes, and finally completely unbuttoned, he casually threw it back, revealing his skinny body. The Bull Demon King shouted excitedly, to appear, Wu Tian stunt turtle school Qigong. Except for the ordinary and Bull Demon King, no one else can see that this thin old man has any ability to extinguish the fire on the flame mountain. At this moment, the turtle immortal shouted, and the originally skinny body suddenly became a muscular man, and the whole person directly grew bigger, from a thin old man who couldn't help the wind to a muscular Mr. Bodybuilder. The turtle immortal raised his arms and slowly gathered his chi, and his hands suddenly flashed with a stream of light, and all the inner chi gathered in the palms of his hands. Then the turtle immortal closed the palms of his hands and gathered into a calyx shaped, and then he put the calyx hand on his waist, and then a bright light appeared between his palms, emitting a dazzling light, which was a manifestation of too much chi gathering. As the turtle immortal slowly shouted word by word, "Turtle, Pi, Chi, Gong." After the shout, the turtle immortal's calyx-like hand pushed forward, and a dazzling Qigong wave shot towards the flame mountain in front. The dazzling Qigong waves made everyone involuntarily block this strong light, the Qigong waves rubbed against the air and emitted a piercing scream, and the powerful air fluctuations made ordinary people flutter backwards in their clothes and hair. When the turtle immortal's Qigong wave was launched, and everyone could open their eyes to see the situation ahead, everyone was stunned, because the originally burning flame mountain in front not only extinguished the flame, but even the mountain was shattered by the turtle immortal's powerful Qigong wave. The turtle immortal changed back to his original skinny body at this time, as if what he had just done was just everyone's illusion, but the situation in front of him let everyone know that everything just now was not actually an illusion, and the powerful Qigong wave really destroyed a huge mountain. Chapter 23. Looking at the effect caused by his own use of turtle sect Qigong, the turtle immortal couldn't help but smile awkwardly, and said to the Bull Demon King, unexpectedly, "I didn't hold back my strength all of a sudden, not only extinguished the flames, but also destroyed your castle." For his teacher, the Bull Demon King naturally did not dare to show any dissatisfaction, and quickly said, "It's okay teacher, destroy it, I can also build another castle, teacher, you are tired." Ordinary and Bulma ignored the small talk of these two masters and apprentices, and they took the Dragon Ball radar to look for the sixth Dragon Ball in the ruins of the mountain. Soon Ordinary found the sixth Dragon Ball in the ruins, which was the 7 planets, and immediately cheered with Bulma. However, Goku did not go with ordinary people to find the Dragon Ball, but found the Turtle Immortal. He pulled the sleeve of the Turtle Immortal, and then looked at the Turtle Immortal with a longing look and asked, "Grandpa, can I use the move you just used?" "What move, Turtle School Qigong?" the Turtle Immortal asked strangely. Goku immediately nodded. Seeing that Wukong wanted to learn his own trick Turtle Sect Qigong, the Turtle Immortal suddenly said with some amusement, "No, your strength is not enough, if you want to use this trick of mine, you still need to learn for at least another 50 years. Saying that, the Turtle Immortal gestured a 5. Hearing that the Turtle Immortal said that he still needed to practice for 50 years before he could use the Turtle School Qigong, Wukong was very unconvinced. He walked to the side of the car, and compared the posture of the Turtle School Qigong according to the appearance of the Turtle Immortal. When the Turtle Immortal saw that Wukong was not dead and wanted to perform the Turtle School Qigong, the Turtle Immortal immediately said, "Don't waste your effort, now you don't have the strength to perform the Turtle School Qigong." But the words of the Turtle Immortal did not completely fall. A flash appeared in Goku's hand, and then he pushed forward hard, and a Qigong wave shot towards the car. Although the power was very weak, only destroyed the tire of the car, but he did perform the Turtle Immortal's stunt Turtle School Qigong. Goku's performance stunned the Turtle Immortals and the Bull Demon King, including Bulma, who had just found the Dragon Ball behind, and Yamcha, who was peeking in the distance. The Bull Demon King directly shouted happily, "It's really worthy of being Son Gohan's grandson, it's really powerful." After listening to the words of the Bull Demon King, at this time, the Turtle Immortal knew that Sun Wukong was actually the grandson of his favorite apprentice Sun Wuhan. The Turtle Immortal looked at Sun Wukong and liked it more and more, and he couldn't help but feel like an apprentice in his heart again, and he asked, "Wukong, are you willing to worship me as a teacher and learn martial arts knowledge?" Goku was of course happy when he heard that the Turtle Immortal wanted to take him as an apprentice, and immediately agreed, but he said hesitantly, this time he promised Pinkfin and Bulma that they would collect the Dragon Balls together, and wanted to ask if they could wait until they collected the Dragon Balls before following the Turtle Immortals to practice martial arts. The Turtle Immortals were naturally not indispensable, and agreed to the trend. Now that you've found the Dragon Ball, everyone is ready to set off and drive in the direction of the last Dragon Ball. But at this moment, the Turtle Immortal walked to Bulma's side and said colorfully, "Miss Bulma, you won't forget your promise, right?" Bulma naturally did not forget, but she really deliberately did not remember. Seeing the Turtle Immortal reminded herself, she couldn't help whispering, "I really didn't expect that this old man's memory was actually so good." The Turtle Immortal didn't care about Bulma's whisper, and grimaced. Bulma said to him, "You wait here, I'll call you later." With that, she walked over to Oolong's side and pulled him behind an earthen wall. After a while, Bulma poked his head out from behind the wall and beckoned to the Turtle Immortal, who immediately ran to the Bulma side with great interest. After a while, there was a lewd laughter of the Turtle Immortal behind the wall, and when he came out, there were 2 unwiped blood stains under the 2 nostrils. Now that the Dragon Ball has been found, Bulma has also obtained the treasure carefully prepared by the Bull Demon King, so Ordinary uses the capsule to conjure a car, ready to drive everyone to the location of the last Dragon Ball. At this time, the daughter of the Bull Demon King came over, blushing a little, and said to Goku, who was sitting in the car, "Goku, remember your promise to me, when you grow up, you will definitely come and marry me." Goku still didn't know what it meant to marry her, and thought there was something delicious, so he agreed. So Pinkfin drove the car with Bulma and they continued to set off, while Yamcha continued to drive the car and secretly followed behind, but after seeing that Wukong could actually use Turtle Pai Kigong, Yamcha was even more afraid of Ordinary them. Bulma held the Dragon Ball radar and said, "Ordinary now only has the last 1-star Dragon Ball, and the radar shows that this Dragon Ball is now more than 300 kilometers away from us, located in the deepest part of the desert. Aren't you excited now that you will be able to collect Chi Dragon Balls and fulfill your wish right away?" Naturally, for the last Pilaf, Ordinary already had a plan to deal with them in his heart, and when he thought that he had worked so hard for so long, he would have to realize his wishes, and in the future, it would be a sea and a fish leaping high in the sky and letting the birds fly. Ordinary Fan's heart was suddenly excited. Ping Fan said to Bulma, "Bulma, thank you, you will always be my best friend. Without you, I would not have been able to collect Chi Dragon Balls and fulfill my wishes." After speaking, Ping Fan looked at Goku and Oolong in the back seat of the car again, and said, "Thank you too, Goku and Oolong, I hope we are friends for life." Listening to the ordinary words, Goku rubbed his nose and laughed happily. Oolong is also very moved. Although everyone has been together for a short time, he was still coerced to join the team before, but now he is also a little moved. He can be regarded as a friend. Bulma raised her fist high at this time and shouted, "Let's move towards the last Dragon Ball." Good. Everyone chimed in. Ordinary kicked the accelerator to the end, and the car suddenly increased its speed and quickly drove towards the Dragon Ball, a planet deep in the desert. At this time, Pilaf has seen from the huge Dragon Ball radar in his castle that 6 Dragon Balls have gathered together, and these 6 Dragon Balls are speeding towards their castle. It is obvious that the other party also has a Dragon Ball radar, and can see the location of the Dragon Ball in his hand. Xiao Wu, Axiu, have you seen those 6 Dragon Balls? Now you immediately set out and snatch their Dragon Balls for me, this time I don't want you to fail again. Pirav commanded to his 2 men. Yes, King Pilaf. Xiao Wu and Axiu answered loudly. Chapter 24. The sun slowly set, and they were getting closer and closer to the location of the Dragon Ball, and at this moment, a missile shot at their car from the distant mountain. Pingfan's punch shattered the roof of the car, pulling Bulma out of the car, and Goku jumped out of the car with an oolong. Just after they jumped out of the car, a robot jumped down from the mountain, walked next to their car, and snatched all 6 Dragon Balls placed in the car. Then they retreated to a short distance in the robot and flew directly towards Pirav Castle. However, for the Dragon Ball to be taken away, they did not have any anxious expressions, and seemed to have been prepared for this situation. Bulma asked Pingfan, "This is your plan? We worked hard to collect all 6 Dragon Balls, and then let the enemy snatch them away. Let's talk, how did you plan?" Ping Fan said with a smile, "Don't worry, let's fly the plane. While flying, I will explain it to you." After speaking, Pingfan took out the capsule and conjured up an airplane. At this time, Oolong knew that ordinary people came out with capsule planes, and couldn't help but ask strangely, "Since you have planes, why do you still drive cars and don't use them?" Ordinary said, "Because we don't know what enemies we will encounter in the process of collecting Dragon Balls, what kind of attacks. The plane is hit by enemies in the air, how can we safely fall to the ground? There's no need to worry now, there's only one last enemy left, and they've already collected 7 Dragon Balls, so they won't be on guard against us anymore, so we can chase them in the plane." Just when they were about to board the plane, Yamcha rushed over with Puer, and Yamcha directly opened his mouth and shouted, "Are you stupid? You finally collected 6 Dragon Balls and let the enemy snatch them." As soon as she saw the handsome and wild Yamcha, Bulma directly looked at Yamcha with stars in her eyes, and suddenly Bulma felt that after a year, she no longer needed to collect Dragon Balls to fulfill her wishes, and there was clearly a goal in front of her. Thinking of this, Bulma immediately enthusiastically took Yamcha's arm, pulled Yamcha and walked to the plane, and said, "Don't worry, ordinary is planned, but this handsome guy, do you also want Dragon Ball to make a wish? Can you tell me what wish you want to make? I'll tell you, even if you can't get your wish this time, it doesn't matter, in a year, Dragon Ball will be able to make a wish again, so you don't need to worry too much." Yamcha was robbed of the Dragon Ball before, and his wish could not be fulfilled, so he anxiously rushed out from behind, and did not consider the existence of Bulma for a while. Now he was pulled by Bulma, and suddenly felt that he was stiff, his face was red, and his steps were slow and stiff and pulled into the plane by Bulma. Puer followed behind, flying while looking at this performance of Yamcha worriedly. But in fact, Yamcha is afraid of girls, but it is a psychological problem. As long as the contact with girls for a long time, this psychological problem will be easily overcome, so when Ordinary piloted the plane to take off, not long after, Yamcha slowly recovered from the nervous look under Bulma's enthusiastic conversation. After Bulma saw that Yamcha was no longer so nervous about herself, she asked Pingfan, "Pingfan, tell me, what are your plans? Why did you deliberately let the other party snatch all our Dragon Balls?" Suddenly, Bulma's words made everyone look at the Ordinary. Ordinary asked lightly, "Let me ask you, is there a difference between having 6 Dragon Balls in your hand and having 1? Everyone thought about it, and Yamcha said, "There is no difference, but there are several Dragon Balls in your hand. As long as you don't collect 7 Dragon Balls, there is no way to summon the Divine Dragon. But now because of you, the other party has collected all 7 Dragon Balls." Bulma shouted a little anxiously. Ping Fan continued to explain, "Although we have collected 6 Dragon Balls, the last Dragon Ball is obviously in the hands of a force that is collecting Dragon Balls just like us. Moreover, the Dragon Ball is protected by the opponent in one of their castles or bases, and if we want to take the last Dragon Ball from the opponent, we need to break into the opponent's elaborate defensive trap. It's clear that Goku and I, even with the addition of Yamcha, are not invincible. There are too many ways to defeat us and take away the Dragon Balls we collected. In that case, if we want to eliminate the opponent's home field advantage, we need to attract them, but at the same time we can collect 7 Dragon Balls. What should we do? After listening to the ordinary words, everyone immediately began to think, except for Goku, who looked left and right in that ignorant way, and didn't know what happened. Bulma said with some hesitation, "Do you want them to collect 7 Dragon Balls and then summon the Divine Dragon outside?" Pinkfin nodded, praised Bulma, and said, "You are right. If you want to summon the Divine Dragon, you must walk out of the castle, and when the time comes, we can directly defeat it when they summon the Divine Dragon, and then directly make a wish to the Divine Dragon." At this time, everyone understood the meaning of ordinary, and doing so can indeed avoid fighting the enemy in the opponent's home field, and can also let the enemy help summon the Divine Dragon. Yamcha asked with some hesitation, "How can you be sure that a few of us will definitely be able to defeat each other?" Ping Fan said with a smile, "If the other party's strength is really strong, they won't let us collect 6 Dragon Balls." Listening to the ordinary words, Yamcha immediately understood this problem and immediately relaxed a lot. At this time, Yamcha suddenly thought of another question, but Shenlong can only make one wish. Who is this wish for? Bulma said at this time, "Our side is ready to give wishes to the ordinary, because he needs it the most. Anyway, Dragon Ball can make a wish once a year, and the rest of us are not in a hurry. What about you? What do you want to wish?" Yamcha heard Bulma's question, and immediately felt that his face was full of shame, and whispered, "I want to make a wish to Shenlong, hoping that he can let me see girls in the future and never be afraid again." Hey! Bulma was suddenly a little speechless about Yamcha's wishes. Ordinary said at this time, "Yamcha, you are shy in the face of girls. This is a psychological problem. Shenlong has no way to help you, because this is part of your personality. If Shenlong really changes your personality, you are not Yamcha." Bulma also followed and said, "Yes, you can contact more girls, and you won't be afraid after a long time, such as me." The last few words, Bulma said with an extremely shy expression. Chapter 25. Hearing Pinkfin and Bulma say this, Yamcha felt that what they said was very reasonable, so he nodded and said, "Well, then okay, I'll try the method you said and see if I can cure my disease." In this way, everyone discussed and helped ordinary people realize their wishes together. Soon Pinkfin piloted the plane, followed Xiaowu and Xiu, and flew near Pilaf's castle. Seeing that the plane that snatched his Dragon Balls fell into the castle, Ping Fan also chose a flat position not far away and landed the plane. Ping Fan said to everyone, let's go, and meet this person who has been hiding in the shadows to grab the Dragon Ball with us for a while." Soon everyone moved to the vicinity of Pilaf's castle. At this time, Pirav was taking the box where the Dragon Balls were placed from Xiao Mai's hand. After opening the box, all the Dragon Balls were constantly shining because of the resonance, and Pirav was very happy, excitedly counting the number of Dragon Balls in the box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, how is it 6 Dragon Balls, the 7th Dragon Ball? At this time, Xiao Wu reminded, King Pirav, the 7th Dragon Ball, in our box. Pirav suddenly blushed and said angrily, "Of course I know, just now I was just joking, don't you understand?" Xiao Wu suddenly lowered her head in fright. Pirav didn't care about them, and immediately ran to his bedroom, took out the last Dragon Ball, and put it with the other 6 Dragon Balls he had stolen. Suddenly, the 7 Dragon Balls gathered together and began to shine rapidly, as if urging Pirav to quickly summon the Divine Dragon to make a wish. Pirav admired the 7 shining Dragon Balls for a while, and then said, "Let's go, let's go out and prepare to summon the dragon, make a wish to make me the new king of this world, and then you will be my right and left prime ministers. Xiao Wu and Xiu immediately thanked Pirav happily. They waited until the evening, and just when Ordinary was also a little doubtful that his plan was going to fail, a blue-skinned dwarf walked out of the castle with a woman and a dog. The blue-skinned dwarf was still holding a box in his hand, and Ordinary recognized at a glance that the box was the box they had previously filled with their own dragon balls. Pirav opened the chest, and 7 dragon balls were immediately scattered on the lawn in front of the castle. Ping Fan said to Gaku and Yamcha, "Okay, the enemy is out of the nest, we can act. 3 people, we are one by one, defeat them, the dragon ball is ours." After saying that, Ping Fan took the lead and rushed towards Pirav. At this time, under the call of Pilaf, dark clouds began to cover the sky, and the stars and moon in the sky were covered by dense dark clouds, and only the 7 dragon balls in the center shone with 7 colors. Ping Fan said, "We want to be fast, the divine dragon is about to come out." Just as the ordinary words fell, the 7 dragon balls on the ground emitted dazzling lightning and shot into the sky above. Under the lightning, a giant creature rose from the dragon ball, constantly swirling and winding in the sky, and finally turned into a huge divine dragon and appeared in the sky above the castle. Although everyone present knew that the dragon ball would summon the divine dragon, they were still shocked by such a huge divine dragon and the divine power exuded by the divine dragon. Gaku and Yamcha were stunned for a moment and looked at Shenlong obsessively, a little overwhelmed. Only Ordinary because he saw more Shenlong in the plot of his previous life, especially knowing that in the later stage, Shenlong wanted to serve the Z warrior family, and he really took what he wanted, and there was no dignity at all. So Ping Fan was amazed, and immediately reacted, and at the same time woke up Gaku and Yamcha, saying, "Don't come with me soon." Only then did Gaku and Yamcha come to their senses and continue to rush towards Pirav and them after the ordinary. Fortunately, Pirav just now did not wake up because he was shocked by the power of the divine dragon. At this time, the divine dragon slowly descended from the air, and the majestic voice immediately sounded, and he asked Pilaf, "Did you call me out?" Pirav said, "Yes, I called the dragon out." Shenlong continued, "Name your wish, no matter what wish, I can fulfill it for you, but there is only one." Pirav was suddenly excited, and he trembled involuntarily at the thought that he was about to realize his desire to rule the world and become a king admired by everyone. Xiao Wu on the side saw that his own king had not said his wish, and couldn't help but remind, "King Pirav, quickly say your wish." Pirav turned his head to look at Xiao Wu excitedly, and then turned his head to look at Xiu on the other side excitedly, seeing that their eyes were full of encouragement, and suddenly his heart was slightly relaxed, so he faced Shenlong again and said excitedly, I. But before he could say his wish, he was directly kicked away by an ordinary kick that rushed from afar. Xiao Wu and Xiu, who were standing on the side, were suddenly startled, and just about to take out their weapons to fight back, they were directly knocked out by Gaku and Yamcha who followed. Although the following action naturally did not hide from Shenlong's eyes, he did not care at all, and continued to ask, "Have you thought of your wishes? Quickly say your wishes." Ordinary stood in front of the Shenlong, took a deep breath, and then said loudly, "I hope that the Shenlong can replace my body with the most suitable scion body, but I don't want a tail. This wish is easy to fulfill." After speaking, Shenlong's eyes flashed red. In an instant, the ordinary body that was still a little puffy became muscular, and the chest muscles, abs, etc. were completely revealed. That still a little fat face, but also instantly became knife and axe-like, from the original fat man, into a national character face of the big man, although cannot say how handsome, but definitely not ugly. The most important thing is full of masculine. In addition to these changes in appearance, Ordinary also found that his body has also undergone great changes, although he can't see it, but Ordinary can clearly feel it. If the original body is just a tank, it can only hold a tank of water, but the current body ordinary feels that this is a boundless universe, and it does not know where the limit is. The divine dragon in the air could not care what happened to the people below. After fulfilling his ordinary wish, he said, "Okay, your wish has come true, I should also go, then goodbye." After that, the divine dragon reformed into 7 dragon balls, flew into the sky, and then scattered around the world. The moment Ordinary became a scion, his strength had actually improved greatly. And he could have helped Goku take down the 4 planets before the Dragon Ball flew out, but he didn't do it. Because the plot behind must exist, not only because those things are the experience that Goku should have, but also because only then will the 17th and 18th appear. Because Ordinary likes the 18th, for the appearance of the 18th, Ordinary cannot change the plot too much. Chapter 26. After the divine dragon disappeared, the dark clouds in the sky also dissipated, and Bulma and Oolong also rushed over immediately. Bulma looked at this suddenly handsome Ordinary. If she would have stepped forward to tease the Ordinary before, but now she will only be happy for the Ordinary. Congratulations, Ordinary, you have finally fulfilled your own wish, and you have taken the first step on the road to becoming the world's #1 martial artist. Bulma congratulated Pingfan. Pingfan said very seriously, "Thank you Bulma, this time I can use the divine dragon to realize my wishes, completely inseparable from your help, so as long as you have difficulties in the future, no matter where I am, I will come back to help you immediately." Bulma smiled and said, "This is what you said, I will definitely find you when I encounter danger in the future, and you will not refuse at that time." When Bulma and Pingfan finished speaking, the others also came over, all congratulating Ordinary one by one, congratulating him on achieving his wish. Pingfan also said to them, "Thank you for so many days of companionship, Dragon Balls will turn into stone within this year. It will be a year before the Dragon Balls will change back into them, and then we can look for Dragon Balls to help you fulfill your wishes." For finding the Dragon Ball to fulfill her wishes, everyone is not very concerned now. Miss Kyunjin of the Bulma Capsule Group, the wish is to find a handsome Prince Charming, but now that her heart has been slowly placed on Yamcha's body, naturally she does not need Dragon Balls to fulfill her wishes. And Yamcha's wish has been said before, this is a matter of personality, and Shenlong has no way to change it. As for Goku, he is naive, and now there is simply no wish to fulfill. As for Puer and Oolong, well, one of them just needs to follow Yamcha, and the other only needs to have a beautiful girl's inner nei, and these don't need Shenlong to achieve. At this time, Pirav and his subordinates Xiaowu and Xiu had already woken up from fainting, and when they saw the disappearing divine dragon and their happy appearance, they immediately understood that Ordinary they snatched their divine dragon wishes, and suddenly their hearts were furious. But Pirav knew that he was no match for ordinary people now, so they rushed back into the castle, drove the robot and rushed out, killing the Ordinary them. Because of the fulfillment of their wishes, they were happy for a while, and some ordinary people lost track of time, only then did they find that Pirav was driving 3 robots and rushing over. Poof! 3 robots each shot a missile at the Ordinary them. Yamcha hugged Bulma and quickly dodged. Oolong and Puer also ran towards the distance, and Pingfan and Goku rushed directly towards the 3 missiles. The 2 of them kicked 2 of the missiles, and the last remaining missile, Ordinary hands took it into his arms, and then pulled it around in a circle, controlling the missile to turn back to Pilaf and them. Looking at the reflected missiles, the Pirav trio was scared half to death, turned around and wanted to escape, but it was too late. The missiles exploded at the feet of the robots they were driving, directly blowing them up, and the 3 robots shattered in midair. At this moment, a full moon rose into the sky, casting clear moonlight. Seeing this, Pingfan suddenly felt bad and shouted, "Goku, don't look up at the full moon." But after shouting this sentence, Pingfan suddenly felt that it was not good, and he should not have shouted like this. Sure enough, after shouting ordinarily, Goku subconsciously looked up at the full moon in the sky, and suddenly Goku seemed to be hit by lightning, his eyes were red, his mouth and teeth were bulging, and his body began to gradually grow larger, slowly turning into a huge chimpanzee. Sun Wukong's rapid change startled everyone, and Ping Fan shouted loudly, "You guys quickly dodge, Yamcha, you subdue him with me, his weakness is his tail." At this time, the gorilla had already discovered the traces of Ordinary Them, and strode towards Ordinary Them. The gorilla waved his big hand and grabbed Pingfan, who jumped on the back of the gorilla's hand and ran up the gorilla's arm. Yamcha, on the other hand, took advantage of the gorilla's attention to be attracted by the Ordinary, and rushed to the gorilla's back, ready to cut off the gorilla's tail. The gorilla watched Ping Fan running on his arm, and suddenly roared, and his other hand continued to grab Ordinary Fan. Although the gorilla that Goku turned into is very powerful, his size is too large, his agility is relatively low, and he does not fight with him, but only dodges his attacks to attract attention for Yamcha. Yamcha finally came to the gorilla's huge tail and used his wolf-tooth wind fist to make a stone knife, wanting to cut off the thick tail with the stone knife. But when the stone knife hit the tail, not only could it not cut off the tail, but the stone knife was shattered. The strange feeling of the tail immediately alarmed the gorilla, and he no longer cared about the Ordinary, but turned his head to look at Yamcha. Facing this pair of bright red eyes, Yamcha was startled and almost pulled his legs and ran, but he also knew that the tail was indeed Goku's weakness, so he endured his fear and hugged the gorilla's tail. Suddenly, the gorilla slowly became calmer. Pingfan immediately jumped off the gorilla's shoulder, raised his hand, gathered his chi into a knife, aimed at the root of the gorilla's tail, and chopped down. With a touch, the huge tail fell to the ground, splashing a lot of dust, and the gorilla slowly became smaller, and finally returned to the appearance of Goku. Seeing that the gorilla had finally turned into Goku again, everyone immediately breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, due to the destruction of the gorilla, the luxurious castle that was originally Pirav has been destroyed by more than half of the gorilla that Goku has turned into. Pirav watched his castle being destroyed by ordinary people not far away, and suddenly his eyes were hazy and his heart ached, knowing that this was a castle that their Pirav family had built with several lifetimes of wealth, and now it was all destroyed. But unable to beat them, Pirav could only bite the corners of his clothes desperately, preventing himself from making a sound of grief. Xiao Wu and Xiu could only comfort their boss in a low voice, and said, "It is not too late for the gentleman to take revenge for 10 years, King Pirav, we still have a chance, as long as we collect Chi Dragon Balls in a year to make a wish, these losses are nothing at all." Ping Fan said, "After all, this is the enemy's territory, and I don't know if there is any danger, let's drive the plane out of here first." After that, Pingfan picked up Goku, got on the reconjured plane with everyone, and left Pirav's castle. Chapter 27. When the sun rises again, Goku also wakes up from his sleep and changes into new clothes, and after Goku stands up, he realizes that something is wrong with him. Because of the lack of a tail, Goku's sense of balance became a little poor at first, and even walked a little crookedly, and he fell into a heel fight. At this time, Goku found that his tail was gone, and shouted, "Tail, what about my tail, why is it gone?" After touching it for a long time, I found that my tail was indeed gone. Just as Bulma and they were thinking about how to explain to Goku, he himself was relieved and said directly, "Since there is no more, then forget it." It suddenly made everyone a little crying and laughing. Ping Fan asked Wukong at this time, "Wukong, where are you going to go later? Are you going to the Turtle Immortal house to learn martial arts with the Turtle Immortal?" Goku immediately nodded and said, "Yes, now that the Dragon Balls have been collected and everyone's wishes have been fulfilled, I should also go and practice martial arts with my grandfather." Bulma came over at this time and asked, "Are you going so soon? Don't you come with us to the western capital to see? You don't seem to have been to the city yet, right?" Goku shook his head and said, "No, I promised Grandpa that after the collection of the Dragon Balls is completed, I will go to learn martial arts with him, and I won't go to the city first." Since Gaku said so, Bulma was no longer reluctant. She took out the Dragon Ball radar and said to Gaku, "Gaku, sorry for losing your 4 planets, but the Dragon Ball will be restored in a year, and you can use the Dragon Ball radar to regain the 4 planets." "Okay, thank you Bulma." Gaku happily puts the Dragon Ball radar into his baggage. Ping Fan said to Wukong at this time, "Wukong, you go to Wushan teacher first, say hello to Wushan teacher on my behalf. I need to send Bulma back to the western capital first, and then pack some clothes, and then I can go to Wushan teacher to practice." "Hey? It turns out that you also have to learn martial arts from your grandfather." Wukong only learned at this time that Pingfan also worshipped the turtle immortal as a teacher. "Well, we'll meet at Grandpa's later," Gaku said happily, and after speaking, he carried the burden and jumped on the somersault cloud. In a word, Ordinary promised. "See you later, bye." On the somersault cloud, Gaku waved goodbye to everyone, and then flew into the distance in his own car. Watching Gaku drive the somersault cloud gradually into a small black dot, Bulma said, "Ordinary, you can actually go to the turtle immortal with Gaku. I just have Yamcha with me, he will protect me." Yamcha also nodded and said, "Yes, Ordinary, with me, you can completely rest assured of Bulma's safety." "It's okay, after all, I promised Bulma's father and mother that I would bring Bulma back intact. Moreover, it may take a long time to learn martial arts with the turtle immortals, so I also need to go back to Zeta to deal with personal affairs first," Ping Fan said. Although those words were in Ordinary Mind's mind, the most important purpose of Ordinary was actually to avoid the turtle immortal's request that the disciples who worshipped him as a teacher must bring back a beautiful woman. It's funny to watch in the manga, but it's really called Ordinary to do. Ordinary really can't do it. In that case, it's better to let Gaku and Klin do it. After they brought Lan Chi over, they would just pretend to be just in time to rush over. After deliberating, several people reboarded the plane and flew west. In less than half a day, the plane landed in the large garden of Bulma's home. At this time, Bulma's mother was watering flowers in the yard, and when she saw a capsule plane of her own family landing, Bulma's mother immediately wondered if Bulma and Pingfan had returned. Bulma's mother put down the kettle in her hand and walked over. Just as the door of the plane opened, she saw Bulma and a few strangers who were packing in the plane. One of the men looked very ordinary, but isn't Ordinary very fat? Why is this so handsome? Bulma's mother didn't know for a while whether to come forward to say hello. Bulma saw her mother standing there, immediately threw away the package in her hand, jumped over, hugged her mother, and said excitedly, "Mom, I haven't seen you for too long, I miss you so much." Bulma's mother also hugged her daughter excitedly. In fact, for more than a month, she and her husband were also very worried about Bulma's safety, and now finally saw that her daughter came back safely. Bulma's mother also said excitedly, "Mother misses you too." But there is a saying that his daughter can see every day, but handsome guys are not necessarily. Bulma's mother let go of her hand, pushed Bulma away, and walked towards the 2 handsome men who accompanied her daughter. Before the person arrived, the iconic laughter had already appeared, and she smiled and said to Yamcha and Pingfan, "Are the 2 friends of Bulma? I really didn't expect that with her temper, she could actually know such 2 cute handsome guys." Seeing Bulma's mother coming, Pingfan immediately thought of the fear of being dominated by his aunt before, and he immediately said, "Auntie, hello, I am Ordinary. Bulma, I have sent you back safely, I still have business, so I will go back, and we will talk later." After speaking, Ping Fan said hello to Bulma, Yamcha, Puer, and Oolong, and immediately ran to the door of Bulma's house. Bulma's mother didn't expect to see him for more than a month, and the originally somewhat fat Ordinary actually became so handsome, and just wanted to invite him to stay for lunch, but did not expect that it was just a blink of an eye, and Ordinary disappeared at his gate. "Forget it, let him go first, anyway, there is a little handsome guy here." After thinking about it, Bulma's mother set her eyes on Yamcha's body. Yamcha naturally did not know the horror of Bulma's mother, and at this time she was still looking at her aunt with a smirk, laughing while introducing herself. Pingfan walked out of Bulma's gate, breathed a sigh of relief, and walked towards his home. He was going to clean up his house a little, and then he went to the Turtle Immortal house, ready to learn martial arts knowledge from the Turtle Immortal. A day later, Pingfan came back to Bulma's home. He came to borrow a plane from Bulma, threw his luggage on the plane, waved goodbye to everyone, and flew the plane to the Turtle Fairy house above the sea. In this way, the ordinary is about to officially embark on the process of becoming stronger.